race. How's it going?
It's going good. Yeah, it's nice to have a bit of a break at the moment. Quite tired after that quite long stint.
Yes, very, very long stint for you. Was it like 3 hours? Was
Yeah,
that what we saw?
yeah, it was to plan to be 3 hours, but yeah, it was just I didn't quite expect it to be like that intensive. It was sort of more when I got out of the stint. It felt more physically, but yeah, I'm glad just to refresh for now.
When do
Yeah,
you return to the car?
Uh, well, I was initially going to return in about an hour, but Tino's doing such a good job at the moment that we've sort of thought about maybe putting him for another stint. We're not quite sure yet, really, what's going to happen.
Yes. If you don't mind me saying so, your pace was truly incredible, and you were catching that front car of Martin Hemmingson and then Liam Rance when he took over by quite a significant portion before you got out the car. Presumably, you must think you can win this race.
Well, that is the aim now, especially now that I've come back and seen what Tino's done in this stint. I mean, I knew he probably had it in him, but it's just like quite a shock that especially after having to be pushed around a lap, that we can still be in this and we can still have a strong chance. I mean, that was the main reason why I had I was pushing so hard, was because after that incident, although the Code 80 helped us on the way back, that we didn't really lose much time on the lap where we were being pushed, we still got a lap down to P2. I think we were 2 laps down to Martin, and so yeah, I had to just try and push as much as I was in practice, because I knew I had the pace in practice. I've done too much in practice, I must say. But yeah, so it was good to try and catch back and to see those gains. Kind of motivates you a lot as well after having such just a disappointing incident. But it's in the past now, and need to focus on getting back in the car and pushing on a bit more.
Yeah, I'm assuming you saw Liam Rance's incident.
I have just just as I was checking back on the stream, I saw in the feed that I'm not entirely sure what went on, but
Well, we believe it's part of a series of incidents that seem to have been taking place due to network issues with people's connection to the server. Most people seem fine. I was wondering whether you were worried about a similar thing happening to you, considering your two closest rivals, Liam and also Alistair Long, having accidents in that nature. Are you or Tino concerned about that?
not particularly, especially with network issues. I mean, I'm probably slightly more concerned, but recently my internet has been fine and connection to the server has been fine, and Tino has Finnish internet, which I wish all countries could have, but his internet is completely, and his network is fine, and I don't expect there to be any issues for him, at least.
There we go. So you seem very, very confident, as you should. In terms of the series as a whole, it would seem that, judging by the pace here at least, it will be your Team Tep car going against the DDoS car of Martin and Liam for the championship. Do you have any long-term plans to make sure that you can bring this endurance series home with you?
Well, I'm mainly more learning. I mean, this is my first endurance race ever, really. I mean, I say that. I did AOR's 2.4 hours of Le Mans Triple Crown event, but apart from that, I haven't really done a proper one with driver changes and stints and stuff, so I'm mainly just learning throughout this championship, but already I've put in quite a lot of practice to get to know the car, get to know the game, and just try and make sure that I can live up to, because I've got to remember that I'm driving at the moment with a guy who's in F1 esports, and so trying to just keep up with that is quite a task. But thankfully, just having able to have that free time, because unfortunately, I was ill for a period of time, so I was off school. But I was just we just found out about the league at the time, and I just put in a load of laps on the server just to try and get to know the game, get to know the car, and hopefully challenge for the championship.
Fantastic. I was going to ask, is R-Factor 2 your main sim, or what is your main? What sort of sims do you normally race?
Well,
and what sort of cars?
Normally I race in AOR F2 in Formula 1 2018. Occasionally I'll jump onto Project Cars because mainly just for special events.
Car number 67 for speeding in pit lane.
Yeah, so normally I'm on F1 and sometimes I jump on project cars, but quite often when I just want to have some fun, I'll jump on R Factor because I do enjoy the game. I think it's a well-made game, especially in terms of how just how well the cars are made and how well the simulation is on this. But yeah, it's just a bit of a learning curve, but I'll get used to it eventually.
Fantastic. And if you don't mind me asking for the people who might be interested, what sort of equipment do you use? And what sort of equipment do you recommend for this sort of racing?
Well, for me, my PC isn't very powerful, I must say. I only have like an AMD FX 4300, which for the techie people out there will know it's not a very optimal processor. I am looking forward to having it upgraded soon, so that could be hopefully done. And I'm also running a 9 series NVIDIA graphics card, and it's not a 980, but yeah, so it's quite... It doesn't take a lot to get into sim racing in terms of your PC side. And wheels, I did go a bit up on the market. I did buy a T300 and some T3PA pedals, but you don't need that. I know people in AOR Split 1, like the person who got podium in last race's AOR PC Split 1 races on a T150. So you don't need the biggest equipment with the biggest price tag to get into sim racing. It's just... I mean, some people can still race on a controller. I'm not a big fan of it. I think a wheel is optimal for me, but yeah, you don't need much.
I race on pad.
Exactly.
Sim racing noob. Any more questions?
One question, if I may, James. I commentated on Sebring not too long ago. And again, I'm looking again, mainly watching Tino as that gap is just seemingly disintegrating between him and Liam Rance. But that track looks insanely bumpy. Is it as bad from the driver's perspective as it looks from a spectator's perspective?
Yes. You can feel it through the wheel a lot. The force feedback, you have to definitely turn it down so you don't feel the bumps. But fortunately, R Factor, you can turn down the head physics. You can even have an option called Stable Horizon on, which also helps a little bit with the shakiness. But definitely through the wheel, it gives your arms a bit of an ache and they feel a bit like jelly afterwards.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not... Yeah, it would be fun to get back to somewhere like Interlagos or even Daytona. Like the Daytona bank section will be pretty smooth, hopefully. So, hopefully, this will be the worst track for bumps on the calendar, I think. So, after this, it should just get a bit easier.
Indeed.
That's why you race on pad, so you don't kill your arms. No force feedback is the best force feedback.
Well, I mean, you have vibrations on a pad, don't you?
No, R Factor doesn't have that. So you basically race completely feedbackless, except you have a P2 kill you.
Useful. I think a final question from me would be, what track are you looking forward to most on this calendar?
Well, it can only be one track. It's got to be Le Mans. I mean, especially from like, it's the only one where I have done an endurance race. Like I said, where I did the AOR one, and I had good pace there on Project Cars. So hopefully I can carry it over into R Factor as well.
Fair enough. And actually, I've thought of one more. I'm just super interested. Not often I get to talk to someone as skilled as you. So, what do you have any tips that you would be able to give to beginner sim racers just coming into and maybe wanting to compete in a series like this, where, you know, perhaps there isn't the world's strongest competition all the way through, but perhaps, you know, they're not exactly bad drivers. What tips would you say to allow people to compete at a decent level?
Don't worry if you're not winning immediately, because, I mean, you're not... I mean, if you're in a league where it's a little bit more entry level, then obviously you might have a good chance of winning. But sometimes you'll enter into a league, and it'll be some of your first times trying to participate in those leagues. Like, I'm fairly new to sim racing. I haven't been doing this for even a year yet. I haven't been doing competitive racing, and it's just the fact that you just need to enjoy it and have fun and just... Like, that's the main reason why this race I had so much pace, because I enjoyed practicing, I enjoyed what I was doing, and I think as long as you're enjoying it, you'll have the motivation to want to do better and push yourself.
Fantastic. Well, I've got no more questions.
No more from me.
Thank you,
There
guys.
you go. Thank you very much for coming along and answering all our questions and being interrogated by us. And good luck for the rest of the race.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully it should go well. Hopefully no incidents. So, thank you, guys.
Enjoy your
Awesome.
rest.
Thank you.
There we go, Mr. James Clay, the man of the hour.
I even commentated on that Le Mans race he mentioned. So I unknowingly commentated on the man himself, but that's always something that makes me smile. I know many gamer tags, I don't know many real life names, so it's one of these things of commentating on the same people in two different places and having absolutely no idea that you've actually just done that.
Interesting. So, Chris, I don't know much about you. I think this is the first time we've spoken to each other.
I believe so.
How often do you find yourself commentating on sim racing?
I make a big nuisance of myself over at Apex Online Racing, AOR, as James mentioned. I'm their head commentator. I've been in their ranks for 2.5 years. I've done a few things over here for VEC as well. And I have a big buzz of commenting. I absolutely love it. I have disgraced myself behind the wheel a few times, and let's just say I know which seat's far more comfortable, and it's certainly the commentary one as far as I'm concerned. So I've like I said, before doing commentary, I actually had my own Formula 1 radio show on a local radio station in the town in which I live, and through which I got to interview Jensen Button, no less.
Fantastic.
When he came to turn on the Christmas lights in town. The radio station was actually comparing the event. We had manpower and all sorts going on, and as I was the F1 expert, i.e. I was the only one that knew a damn thing about the sport, I got to interview the man, and I must say he was a great pleasure. I could have spoken to him for hours. He would have gotten pretty fed up with me pretty damn quick, I'd have thought. But yeah, he was a very lovely man to talk to.
Fair enough. What on the same sort of subject, what sort of tips would you give to people new to commentating? I mean, this is my first race that I'm commentating here, the second stint of it, and the only advice I've had so far was some that I managed to coin off Jimmy Broadbent, the streamer on this platform, who commentates on the GTR 24-hour race. I managed to get a small bit of advice from him on just remaining genuine and doing your research and following up to find things to talk about and keeping things interesting. What sort of tips would you give to people who are aspiring to commentate more frequently? Who
are looking to start or just further bolster their career? Well, I suppose the advice goes to both. If you're looking to start, find a league that has something at entry level. Don't aim for the top spot. It just takes the pressure off of your shoulders a bit. So again, referencing AOR, they've got various different tiers within various different games. So there'll be something that you could kind of try your hand at that doesn't have the pressure of you must do well out of the box. Because the last thing you need if you're fresh to commentating, particularly if you haven't got a number of people are very young. Obviously James mentioned he had to skip school for a while. That made me feel very old. I was born in 1858. There's old money going around when I first started. So it's one of these things of don't put too much pressure on your shoulders to do well. You may well be the next David Croft, Martin Brundle, but don't aim that high so soon, because the last thing you really need, if you are naturally good, or if you do have that natural energy, you could very easily kill that passion by just going too high too quickly. The whole run before you can walk anecdote is absolutely true. You do not want to be kind of putting yourself off before you've had a chance to fully explore whether it's something you realistically want to do, whether you can physically do it. Yeah. So that's certainly the first thing I would suggest to anybody that thinks I could try it or has a question mark to try it. Because when I tried, I actually it was AOR I went to, and I said, haven't done it before, done the radio thing for a while. Might I try it? I was given a fairly new league that didn't have a lot of coverage as far as they were concerned, so I was able to cut my teeth, and I rather hit the ground running, and I kept making a nuisance of myself in various different leagues. Finding a league that is welcoming of you is helpful, but there's a lot of them, so there's quite a number of leagues you could certainly try, large and small. What you were referencing about Jimmy's advice there of doing your research, that's true. Having the knowledge there does help, particularly when you've got gaps to fill. Filling in gaps often comes down to experience more than actual just raw knowledge. It's how you come across. You could have the best knowledge of the world, but if you come across very, bored's not quite the right phrase, but if you come across very unenergetic, it's difficult to stay engaged with that kind of coverage. So you've got to have that kind of natural energy. You have to want to do it. Again, that sounds a bit strange, but this links back to what I was saying first of all. You put too much pressure on your shoulders, that can ruin the want to do it. So they're very, very closely intricate things. Have the knowledge behind you, absolutely, but I personally would say that your knowledge is better gained by experience as opposed to just reading and reading and reading, because that may work for some. It didn't work for me. I tried to kind of read up on a lot of names. I ended up forgetting the vast majority of it before I ever used it. So my knowledge and experience comes from just purely doing it. So it's a case of do it. If you do well, do it again. And you'll also get streams, you'll also get commentaries that don't do well. Don't hit yourself too hard, and this is a very, very important one for those that have got some commentaries under their belts, and also those that are looking to give it a go for the first time. Because I remember when I had one of my first ones that didn't go so well, for whatever reason, whether it's technical problems or whether I'd made a mistake, I was really critical of myself, really hit myself hard. And in the end, I sort of had to stop myself and say, this is ridiculous. I'm kicking myself for things only I know about, which is fine to try and improve, of course. There's never a point where you can learn no more, of course, but just keep it in moderation. Okay, that didn't go well. Let's learn from it, move on, improve it. If you learn from your mistakes, then that's the best way to proceed.
So starting off with the raw natural energy and excitement for what you're doing, for the sports, for the series, for the particular type of racing, I guess, finding a series that supports the type of racing that interests you and the sort of people that interest you at a skill level where you can sort of slip in under the radar and develop the skills that you need to become a fully fledged commentator or caster, and then slowly building up to the point where you're commentating on things that a lot of people will watch, i.e. presumably the main AOR leagues are where you now sit and commentate the larger ones. So starting off with that natural energy, and then just building up your skills from there until you're ready to take on something bigger, as opposed to diving right in the deep end. And you mentioned sort of, by the sounds of things, it sounds like you sort of wing it when you initially dive in, and then just slowly gain a knowledge of people by recognizing names and cars, and just developing a knowledge of who's better than who and what sort of skills and tactics certain people employ, and then gaining that sort of almost Martin Brundle, David Croft type interpretation through your own experience as opposed to just raw studying.
Yeah, that's right.
It also depends on how you get into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Commentating here, being disqualified, being interviewed, commentating for 7 hours, that was like... And now I'm sitting here in the waiting room, chatting with them, ready to talk to them.
Unfortunately, I missed a lot of what you said there, Josh. I'm not sure whether it was a connection on my side or what happened there.
I think it was on Josh's
on Josh's side, yeah.
To be honest, I missed some of it, but I sort of understood the gist of it, in that sort of like you didn't expect to find yourself commentating, but it just sort of happened due to the circumstances you were in.
Yeah.
The biggest problem I have is combining it. Like I'm driving a car and
oh, that's hard.
So I'm driving the 337 even in it, and I will do it in soon. And earlier I wanted to commentate and to do an emergency stint.
Yes.
And meanwhile, I'm still managing the team that we are driving in.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, that's a lot of things to
So-
keep your to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
We did notice your absence earlier from the commentary box with the emergency stint, but obviously we can understand, and it was a pretty damn good emergency stint, considering that it hadn't been long since you'd got out of the car, if I'm not mistaken. And then problems dictated that you get back in and just carry on, which is pretty impressive.
Well, actually, I think I'm the only controller in this league. I think Martin said something using one, but
Yeah,
otherwise I think I'm the only pet guy in here.
that's very impressive
Yeah.
to be at this level using a pad. But coming
Yeah.
back,
Oops, sorry, no, you go ahead.
I was going to say, coming back to the commentary thing. Essentially, when you were mentioning sort of winging it to start with, I totally winged it when I very first stepped into the commentary box. I knew, it was a single series. This was a single make series, so I didn't have to swat up too much on the car. They all had the same thing, but I didn't know anybody. I knew where they were, which was Road America in my case. I had a track map, and that was it. I just completed, so I didn't know anything about any of the drivers, how they'd done in that season, or how they'd done in previous seasons. It was the opening race of a new season that I was commentating on for the very first time. And I wouldn't recommend doing it that blind, but some people kind of do well in that environment. Some people thrive in a high pressure environment. I don't. I very much prefer to have a very rigorous plan. Not quite what I mean, but I prefer to have a structure to what I'm doing. I'm not very good at completely winging it. If I'm very much a logical thinker. If I make a plan, it's A to B to C to D to E. If something goes wrong at B, I find it very difficult to circumvent it to go to C or D. Some people have that really natural creative flair of, if B goes wrong, I'll find something and go off to G. I wish I had that, and I don't. My wife does. She's very good at that sort of thing. But, I need that kind of structure. So when I first came into commentary, I was very nervous. Probably I'm the only one that knew that, because I had a lot of kind of life experience, like I said, with the radio show, and my sort of working life has been involved with talking to people. So I've had a lot of practice in what I call vocal presentation. How you come across to your audience. And that's something I've developed over the sort of 2.5 years I've been doing the commentary. I listened back actually to my first commentary relatively recently, and I just cringed. I was like, oh god, that's horrible, but only I probably thought so. Most people are their own worst enemy. Most people are their own most severe critic. So I no doubt am just overcritical on how I was doing, but it also kind of reminded me how far I've come. There's so many things I do differently now than when I started, but also the amount of experience I've got. The names that the people I've commentated on, the series I've commentated on, the cars involved, the tracks I've commentated on, all that sort of thing is very hard to learn by reading, or it is for me anyway. Different people learn in different ways. You kind of have to find the combination of methodologies that work for you, because the way I do things won't work for other people, absolutely, and you are going to get it wrong quite a few times before you really get that winning formula. So again, coming back to what I was saying about don't be too hard on yourself, again links back to that, is you will get it wrong quite a number of times, and the general public will remind you of that as well. That was something else I was quite sensitive on when I started, I suppose is the right way of putting it, because I would I sort of keep an eye on the chat, and when something wasn't going round, of course chat explodes by and large, so I would be quite critical of myself for that. But again, you're just going to think, okay, that went wrong, let's do something to make sure that doesn't happen again. So it's all a learning curve. Even this many years down the line, I'm still learning. There's things I change from commentary to commentary, from series to series. So it's a case of finding what works for you to start with, and then just doing more of it and building on your repertoire. There'll be some things that just don't work for you. There's some series that don't interest you. I can't imagine I'd be a very good golf commentator, for instance. I'm kind of a little bit too energetic for that. But some people, it's all about finding what works for you. And like I say, don't be put off by when things don't go right, because there will be a number of instances where things don't go well. So just keep that in mind and keep pushing forward. If you really want to do it, there will be somewhere for you to be able to commentate on. That is pretty certain.
Well, there you go.
In that context, I would advise people to watch the new Beyond Victory podcast of Nico Rosberg. I will link it in chat. It's about maximizing your mental performance and just coping with failures and getting the maximum out of them.
That sounds useful. I might give that a listen.
Yeah, likewise.
What you were speaking about there, sort of like winging it, just having very little information. You were talking about a Road America track map. That sounds awfully like what I've done today. Sort of rocked up to my computer this morning, installed the files, downloaded the spotter's guide image and a track map of Sebring, which is what I'm using to pull corner numbers and corner names, and then just sort of using the ground running. As James Clay was saying, with he's using this series to learn to drive, I'm sort of using it as a learning experience as a commentator and steward. So I guess endurance racing is my passion, although in the future it's never been my idea until recently to try commentating, because I am a motorsport student hoping to get into it from a different perspective. Never thought that I'd particularly be doing this on a Saturday afternoon. And I dabble in driving myself. I drive iRacing endurance in the GTE category, but I have to say I am finding commentating quite a buzz. So for those who are thinking of trying it, maybe in the chat, I would definitely say find a league that needs a commentator, as Chris says, perhaps a low down one so you don't have too much pressure in a form of racing that you know a bit about or enjoy watching particularly, and giving it a go, because it is quite a thrill, more so than a lot of people I think.
I love it. I as soon as I did it, the first time I did it, I loved it. But after my very first one, I was knackered. I was absolutely shattered. It was literally crikey, how long was it? I think it was barely over an hour or something like that. But because it was a sort of a sprint race kind of affair, it's very intense. So, of course, endurance racing, it sounds obvious. It's a very different discipline. Of course it is. You haven't got wheel-to-wheel constant door banging going on from beginning to end for 12 hours. The drivers couldn't cope with it. Us commentators certainly couldn't cope with it. I'd probably be in a coffin if I tried to commentate at absolute full crank for 12 hours straight. I'd have a good fun trying it, I'm sure. But yeah, I love commentating, have done from the first moment. So that's how I knew that this was something I wanted to explore. That buzz, that energy, that enjoyment of being able to add my own kind of energies, my own style, which has developed, of course, over the period of time that I've been commentating for. It has changed, it's evolved, it's altered. I've done things to correct my own mistakes and yada yada yada. So yeah, and I hope to continue to be a nuisance. Oh, speaking of nuisance, James Tahui just hit someone in the pits there. That was Adam. I don't know how you pronounce that.
That's Karkazuski.
Lovely.
The lead GTE car.
Yes,
that's probably not a good car to hit in the pits. And Tino Nakarinen pit at the same time. He had a 50-something second advantage over Liam Rance, who pitted not too long ago. Be interesting to see where he comes out in.
He's behind him. Liam is. Where is he coming up to? I'm a little rusty on Sebring. Admitted. I think he's coming down to hairpin turn 7, and Tino is coming through turn 5. So
that's Big Ben. So it's not a huge gap.
20-ish seconds, I guess.
Yes. something like that, which is sort of what it was before Liam pitted. I think it was about 30 seconds before Liam pitted. I wouldn't be surprised if it was about 25 now.
Oh, 14! Crikey, that's
14. That
wow.
seems very little considering the on-track gap.
It was 26 when they came in, so
Yes,
Tino's
that's-
absolutely flown in the laps when Liam Rance came in. Also, we've been talking about commentary and all sorts for the last 20 minutes. Let's actually talk about the race for a while. As the lead GTE is handed over to Mikolai Maliki, I think that one is.
Yes, that looks about right. But what's interesting is that they've gone from having a full lap and a bit lead over the second place GT of currently being driven by Ross Woodford, and it's now down to half a lap. So I don't know how long their pit stop was, but they've lost a significant amount of time there, whether Ross owes us a pit stop or not in that pink. Is that the DDoS car? I think that might be the DDoS car.
Oh, the Ross Woodford is in the Team Temper BMW.
The Team Temper, that's it.
Car 11. So
there you go.
Ross is someone I've commentated on before. He's one of the few names I do recognise. I recognise several names from this list that I have commentated through VEC before. Jaime Tahui. We had I've just realised I said his name wrong when I commentated on his on an endurance event at Spa. I kept saying Tahui last time. It's Tatahe. Or that's how I realised to say it. Again, I hope that's correct. But,
well, don't worry if it's not. I think mispronouncing names is something that we do.
It's part of the course. It's part of the course.
Precisely.
That's English commentators.
Something I should probably mention, as has just been mentioned to me, is we need to do a sponsorship plug.
Yes.
If Josh would like to bring up the graphic.
Indeed. Tell me when you're ready.
I am ready when you are.
Let's go.
All right. Well, this race is brought to you by Saddler Computers. They're a Nottingham, UK-based business that sells R-Factor 2 dedicated servers that start from just $7.99 a month. Our powerful Intel Xeon-based R-Factor 2 dedicated gaming servers will have you covered. Whether you're an R-Factor 2 sim racing league or sim racing team looking to practice, we're confident that we can supply a server that will be reliable and, above all, cost-effective. Our R-Factor 2 servers are fully customizable to what settings you desire, providing a worry-free racing experience. You can visit Saddler Computers from the link in the description of the YouTube live stream. Now, Chris, as you were saying in the race, a lot of drivers that you've commentated on before, I wonder if that perhaps puts you in a unique position to give us some insight into who you think will perform well throughout this league. Any particular driver combinations you think that could prove fruitful in the long run, whether they're doing well in this race in particular or not?
This is always a very difficult thing. It's always a dangerous thing to do out on the opening round because certain tracks suit certain people in very, very different ways. Obviously, Sebring is very short, very twisty, exceedingly bumpy track. Le Mans, very, very, very different. Kettle of Fish, lots of long straights where it's kind of easy to take your eye off the ball a little bit. See, a track like Sebring, you've got to constantly focus. There's always a corner here, there, and everywhere. When you get onto the Mulsanne, and when you get onto Mulsanne Straight, the Hanadier, call it as you will, at Le Mans, you're there for quite a number of seconds at full throttle, not really thinking about anything else, especially if there's no one ahead of you. So you've got another form of distraction. But some people focus well in a situation where there's not necessarily lots of people around them. Some people do better when the pack is much tighter. Some people do better in the GTE, some people do better in the LMP2s. It's very, very hard to kind of to put your hedge your bets so soon. And also, we've all seen it in endurance races where I was actually watching Raoul Hoban, and he just had an impact with one of the GTEs, Smith, I think. Jeffrey Smith actually running last. As I think Smith was actually having a problem of his own accord and just got rather caught out. He's safely rejoining the track there. That was slightly unfortunate for Raoul Hoban there.
That looks to be down at the Tower corner, right where everyone is having their incidents today. That seems to be incident central.
Just 8 seconds separate the top two.
Yeah, I was just realising that. Yeah, Tino is within 9 seconds. Then, around about 8 seconds behind Liam.
He just went under right now.
Might want to keep an eye on him.
Yeah, definitely.
Although Tino's got 2 LMP2 cars to dispatch on his way now. One of Evans M1 is the Harry Blanks prototype car of Zabua.
Zabua, yeah. So you'll be able to see Liam soon. Now, whether Liam's aware of the fact that Tino is closing him down, as Liam's actually just got past Jaime Tatui. I will struggle with that name all race long, I suspect. So that's put his car another lap down. But again, Liam is if he's not aware of it before, he will be aware of it very, very soon. And this actually links very nicely back to what Joshua was saying about the kind of mental strength. There's a whole lot of strategy to play out as we're nowhere near, halfway in this race, or we're just over halfway in this particular race. Long way to go. Lots of driver changes, lots of pit stops to happen. It's very easy as a driver, if something's not going quite the way you want it to, is to essentially give up. Is to just shut down and not be as focused as you need to be. And that's it manifests itself in different ways, whether it's a sprint series or an endurance series. In a sprint series, it's much more urgent. You've got to resolve issues much quicker. You don't have the luxury of time. Sounds pretty obvious, but it's how you approach that mentally that is the real big change there. In an endurance race, you don't so much just think, oh, well, never mind, we'll catch up with it later. It's just not something you panic about so much. It's something you handle in a very, very different way.
Yes, I think from my personal experience, when someone's catching you hand over fist like Tino is catching Liam at this particular moment at a good second a lap, it would appear. I think my personal attitude is wait till they catch up to you, let them go, and then just focus on your own race. Hit your apexes, maximise your exits, work the car, the setup, the fuel, the tyres that you've got strapped to your car to the best of your ability, and whether you're handing it over to another driver or driving to the end, make sure that you get to that point in the best possible position you can. Because in endurance races, there's such big swings that it can go anywhere at any point. And as you say, we've got 5 hours and 40 odd minutes to go. This is nowhere near over.
Oh no!
But it's surprising that the gap, despite the difficulties for both cars, one of them having a quite violent accident due to lag, and one of them running out of fuel and having to be pushed a lap, ending up 3 laps down or 2 laps down. They're both within 5 seconds of each other, fighting for the lead.
It's 3.7 now, and on board, if you're on board with Tino, you can actually see Liam ahead of him. So Tino will have that in mind. So he's very much got his eyes on the prize. He's been pushing hard for pretty much the whole stint. He's really been absolutely pushing everything out of that particular car as they start to work their way past a few more people. Another person in the pits there is Maris Van Eyck in the golf-coloured Porsche. I do love that colour scheme.
It is a lovely colour. I think the Gulf colours, while some people do overuse them a little bit, I think if you use them in the right place at the right time, they can look very good. Oh
dear, that's Liam. Oh, bounced off the. Oh.
This is incredible scenes as they go side by side around Big Bend. I think Tino's got him.
Yeah, Tino just had the momentum coming into Big Bend there. Through he goes into the race lead. But yeah, just one mistake. Whether he was caught out by the Porsche is trying to identify who that is behind.
It was Lichten was the Porsche.
Yeah, Lucas Lichten is indeed the Porsche running.
Is that the Black Hawk Racing car, I believe?
He's running third in class, so he's again. He's a couple of laps down from Ross Woodford, who is second in the GTEs. So again, that comes down to kind of managing your own race, especially if there's a big gap ahead of you. So yeah, whether Liam got put off by the Porsche there, he may have just caught the Porsche at a very awkward moment in the track, and suddenly he was off into the grass, and that's the race lead changed hands. But it can change so quickly. I was fortunate enough to be part of the VEC 24 Hours of Le Mans broadcast. I was in the opening stint of that, and that was great fun to commentate on. Well, the whole series was great fun to commentate on, actually. So I did the first 3 hours, and funny you mentioned Jimmy Broadbent. He was absolutely flying in the GT class. And my next stint was the following morning, 7 a.m, as Liam Rance brings his car in. Oh, he's just bounced off the wall. Liam was in earlier.
I thought Jimmy ran LMP1, did he not?
I thought he was in a GT. Oh, no, you may be right, actually.
Because I thought he ran the Nissan.
Oh, he did, yes,
Nissan.
that's right. Beg your pardon, yes, he wasn't the LP. That the one with the really growly engine, I seem to remember.
The front-wheel drive one that completely failed in real life, but for some reason is fantastic in sim racing.
Yeah.
I did check back that incident, by the way, with Liam. It seems that he just clipped the inside curb in that bumpy section.
Oh dear.
At the start of the lap, and just spun it into the wall.
Yeah, McCaffrey's just crashed as well.
Oh no.
He's just come out of the wall now. So it'll be interesting to see if he's got any damage on his car.
That's the no Wi-Fi Infinity Racing, the one of those that is left in the race. The other one, reminder, retired 66 laps into the race at Sunset Bend, having spun and then being hit head-on, suffering a suspension failure and being forced to retire.
Yeah, well, that'll do it. Yes. Yeah, these cars don't really like being smacked straight in the engine, by and large.
No.
Is Stephen going to bring that in? Nope, he's choosing to continue. So whatever issues he's having, he's choosing to.
Hemilton's.
And Martin Hemilton is back in the car in the now second placed LMP for DDoS Racing. Car 75 returns to track. Driver change once again. And I absolutely admire these guys for going so long. It's, a lot of these are just two crew cars.
Yes.
So that's an amazing amount. I mean, I can't keep focused. Of the few races I've ever done, I've been very, very short. I just cannot focus for that long, lap on lap on lap on lap. I'd be off into the dust within the hour, I suspect. And these guys are doing up to 6 hours. That's utterly mad. But absolutely, full credit to them for doing so.
Absolutely. I mean, I personally can't imagine it myself. The longest stint I've ever had to do is 2 hours. But no, to be able to, particularly like for Martin Hemilton, to do his first stint of 4.5 hours, 2 hours later he's getting back in the car.
Well, that's a power nap.
Absolutely madness. Absolute madness.
But coming back to what I was saying about Le Mans, again, Jimmy Broadbent was really stretching his legs at the front of the class at the end of the first 3 hours, and then when I came back the following morning, their car was many laps down. I mean, it was 6-7 laps or something like that, and falling off the pace pretty considerably, and it had all gone wrong in the night stint for them. So, you may start well, but the old racing adage, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. But you can't realistically say, oh, you've started well, therefore you're going to finish well. It's a whole matter of things, and one simple mistake, as we've really just seen from Liam Rance, one simple mistake can just completely undo what your previous stint has achieved. But now that DDoS Racing 75 finds itself a minute and a half behind Tino's Team Temper, not quite, Team Tepper, car number 9. So I'm curious to see how, or if Martin's able to close that gap down, or how Tino's going to manage that gap at this stage. So I'm keeping a close eye on that. Coming back to your original question on who do I rate, I am a bit of a Tino fan. I've commentated on him in many a race for AOR Formula One side, and I make no apologies that I'm a fan of his. So I would certainly say that he's got a very strong chance. Again, he's, as James said, he is part of the Williams esports team, and they're doing pretty well there. So James has got a great ally in that, but of course James, he's less experienced, so that is something that Tino, I think, will probably have to kind of help James with. James was certainly doing a pretty good job in the car from what I could see before I was in the commentary box, so I don't think it's going to be quite as one-sided as it seems on paper. But we will see. But early indications, I would say that Tino and James have got a pretty good chance.
We have a battle about to unfold. It looks like Jeffrey Smith and Simon Carlson. Jamie Smith just went off. Jeffrey Smith, sorry, just went off, and Simon Carlson was able to get past him. So the gap between them is very close. Enough for a mistake.
One observation I've just made is Martin Hemmingson flying wide at Sunset Bend, forced wide by a GT car pulling to the inside and then locking up.
Oh no!
Forcing Martin Hemmingson to go the long way round. That would have cost him some time. But what you were talking about earlier, just a second ago there, about being a Tino fan and being interested to see whether Martin Hemmingson can close the gap. I would agree with you that Tino and James have a fantastic chance to score maximum points in this race, especially with the pending penalty for Martin Hemmingson. But earlier in the race, Martin was closing Tino down. He'd made a couple of mistakes and headed straight on at the Tower Bend into the wall, took on a small bit of damage, and even with that damage, Martin was closing the gap by a couple of tenths to a second per lap on Tino. So it'll be incredibly interesting to see how these cars match up to each other when James comes back to the Tepper racing car, as well as where they are, in a couple of hours' time. How they will be stacking up to each other, both in terms of pit stops, where they are in the pit stop cycle, as well as where they are position-wise on track.
Yeah, I'm a massive Hemmingson fan, not gonna lie. He's been, obviously I'm commentator for M1, so I've been there. Hemmingson's been a driver the whole time I've been a commentator, so I've known him for quite a long time, and Liam Rance. They're both obviously in the F1 league, the F1 M1 league. They're both incredible drivers, and they're the ones I've been kind of rooting on. I'm neutral, but they're the ones I'm moving on my head.
That's the thing. It's we as commentators, we do our best to stay neutral, but we're human beings at the end of the day, and I would defy any commentator to say they aren't backing someone in the back of their mind. You do your best to remain neutral, professional, and all the sort of stuff. Of course you do, but come on, we're all human beings. We'd all be lying if we say we didn't back someone within the race, and I'm exactly the same wherever I commentate, particularly if it's a regular series that I'm on, so I know that I've got history with the drivers and how they've done in previous series or what have you. There is someone that I'm secretly backing. We do our best to cover the action as best we can, but there's always someone. There is always someone we're keeping an eye on, and I defy any commentator to argue otherwise.
Well, I'd never deliberately stand any other person. I'm not like that.
Oh no, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. You remain professional, of course you do.
Yeah.
But even the pros, the Brundles and the Crofts of the world, they've got their favourites, and I would argue with them that they don't. But it's one of these things of you give everybody due credit for what they do. Don't slate them too hard. Sometimes it's if they've made a really daft mistake, it's difficult not to. But you do your best to remain professional, but we all have our favourites. Actually, coming back to what we were saying about Martin Hemmingson, he has actually, since he's got in the car, he's closed down Tino by a couple of seconds in the last few laps. So again, we were talking about Tino is really pressing on. Now Martin's got behind the DDoS car, and he is absolutely flying now. So whether there's any kind of preservation going on, again, that's another factor that's difficult to kind of analyse from. I'm not so experienced in endurance racing as I am in other disciplines. Oh, says Martin, gone wide a little bit at turn one. Wouldn't have cost him too much. Kicked up a little bit of sand there. But I'm not as experienced in endurance racing as I am in other disciplines. Oh, he's gone one again. Don't push too hard. But I could easily imagine there's going to be elements of tyre saving, fuel saving that goes on within the stints, and of course not everybody is going to do those savings at the same time. So whereas there might be a period of time where Martin's gaming on Tino, there'll be a period of time where Tino gets away from Martin, etc, etc, etc. So it's not always just down to raw pace, but at the moment it looks very much like it's raw pace, and Martin's absolutely got it in spades. But Martin's actually, the couple of times he's been off would indicate he's pushing a little too hard. The car's not ready to give him as much grip as he wants to get out of it. He's pushing a bit too hard to try and close that gap down. so easily done where you've got the pace, but you've got to have the consistency to back it up.
Exactly. I think earlier in this race we've seen him make a couple of mistakes where he's just got a wheel on the grass at the wrong time under braking or on the exit, and that's where we've seen him lose significant amount of times half spinning the car or nudging a wall or narrowly avoiding a back marker, and that it's just pushing the track limits just a little bit too hard, and you just think to yourself, rein it in a little bit, get into rhythm, and the pace will flow because he does have it.
Oh yeah.
As you say, in spades, it's hard to miss. It's just also you'd rather he didn't miss his braking points and his apex points because obviously part of the beauty of racing is the drama that comes with the highs and lows of the race, but part of the beauty of racing is also watching an expert in their element absolutely flying around. And especially on a track like this, where it's easy to see talent. I don't know about you, but I turned a few laps of this track before the race started, and the best lap I could get out on the base setup was a 1:52. High 1:52 was the best lap I managed. These guys are running consistently in the 46s, and that boggles my mind.
Yeah,
how they managed to do it.
I've done that a few times where in other categories where I've tried the same conditions, but of course running like a stock setup you would get with the game with the car or what have you. Push and think, oh okay, I've got what I think is a fairly decent lap, and then you look at the qualifying results and just cry because he is just nowhere near anything to do with where these aliens can do. But
I watched the qualifying on Wednesday, by the way. I think the pole lap from Martin Hemmingsen was, you can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I think it was a 1:43.8, somewhere around there, which that boggles my mind how somebody is physically able to drive a lap round here that fast, especially with the risks of the track being so bumpy and so technical, so challenging. You've got to be so precise with and deliberate with your movements around the corners with the way that they flow into one another. So it can be really hard to hook a lap up around here, and to get one quite that fast is not unbelievable.
I was just watching Martin Hemmingsen then as he's coming around that final corner. Just before he committed, he had Simon Clausen in the Porsche right with him, and he just cut right in front of him to open up the entrance into that last turn. So again, he's not messing about. Is Hemmingsen? He is pushing every inch of the way. So much so he wasn't even willing to just take a tighter line through that last turn, and he very nearly took the nose of the Porsche off. That's coming through Sunset Bend, but that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, taking risks in the GT traffic. Obviously, you'd rather not take risks, but when you have to, and you're trying to close a gap of the size that is the gap between Martin Hemmingsen and Tino Naukinen, it's you've got to take risks. You can't afford to sit behind GTs, especially at a track like this where every corner can cost you a second. He's got a gap. He's got a mission. He's certainly pushing it to the absolute limit. We've just got to hope that he doesn't get himself tangled up with someone.
And another thing, because there's still quite a lot of cars.
He's rammed into the back of Mayer, I believe that was, in the like the satellite racing. Marius Mayer, I will confirm for you whether that's the satellite racing car. I believe it is.
It was indeed Mayer. No, that's the Haven racing car 177. But yeah, I just saw that again. That's someone spun on Sunset. I didn't see who that was. One of the GTEs has parked it on the outside of Sunset Bend. But yeah, I was a little bit unlucky. Martin.
Ben Kay in 2017.
And he's come in as well. So
yes, some damage there in the wall. By the way, just to correct myself from what I said earlier, the pole time was not a 43.8. It was a 43.4.
Good
and
Lord.
The second place time by Tino was a 43.5. The next car behind the pair of them was the other Tepper racer, the number 10, which only did a 45.3. So 0.8 of a second between those two cars. That shows you the skill disparity between these two front runners and the rest of the field.
Wow.
Absolutely mind-boggling.
Ooh, sorry to interrupt you, but Long has gone off. He's actually spun it. He looks like he might hit the barrier.
Oh,
Not
he's...
quite.
Again, that is the third incident for Long.
He just got one wheel
Oh.
on the grass and he got sucked in. He
Oh.
actually nearly
That was
had contact coming back on, didn't he?
Yeah, it was...
Dangerous.
I think it was that Zubia he nearly... Yeah, it was, and that's Tobias Buck that's just gone past him. Oh, wow, that was a bit of a wake-up call then for Long. And that's what can happen. You take your eye off the ball just for a split second. And that's...
Vincent Evans hasn't got a rear wing. Sorry to
Oh.
interrupt you, but he's actually not got a rear wing. He's in the barrier right now.
Who is it, sorry?
Vincent Evers. Yeah,
Vincent
indeed.
Evans. Oh dear. That was the car that was struggling earlier, that was spent a considerable amount of the race behind one of the GTE cars. He spun it again.
I'm not,
Yeah.
not surprised with no rear wing.
Code 80.
He got
code
no
80.
grip.
Please
Code,
all slow down to
code 80 has been
per hour.
thrown.
In 5,
That will be for
4.
Vincent.
Yeah,
3,
absolutely it will.
2,
And
1. Code 80 active.
There we go.
interestingly, that lead GTE car that I'm saying that he was behind for a large portion of the race, that GTE car is coming into Sunset Bend now. I believe that's Sunset Bend, and
That's
Vincent
Maliki.
Evans is half a lap away. So there's only a half a lap difference between the two cars. Should the code 80 be released the moment Vincent Evans reaches the pits, then that time that Vincent Evans spends in the box, Maliki could get back ahead of him, and that LMP2 could go back behind the lead GTE car once again.
Hamilton's had another problem. He's lost about 10 seconds. It's now 1:44 between him and Tino. Tino's in. So several cars coming in now under the code 80 as Nick Bracci and Stephen McCaffrey come in as well in the GTEs. So again, you may as well. The field is much slower, so you lose less time.
But interestingly, this is a pit stop that Tino owes us after Martin Hemmingson jumped in the car.
Yeah.
So the next person to pit stop out of the two of them, the next person that has to pit will be Martin, and Martin will not overtake Tino thanks to the code 80. So Tino, taking full advantage,
Well played.
will take the net lead of the race, and is now all down to Martin and Liam respectively for the rest of this race to close that gap. Bearing in mind that when Martin took over the car, he only had 2.5 hours left of potential run time till he reached his race maximum, let alone his stint maximum.
Oh.
So he's already run over his stint maximum for the first one. He's only allowed 7 hours total for the full race, which Tino might push close to at the end of his stint here. Because I think he's done now about 3 hours running, and James did about 3 and a bit hours running. So, Martin's got to watch out for that.
Indeed. And the man that was with us in the commentary box for a period of time, Joshua Mayer, is now out on track for the no Wi-Fi Infinity Racing car 366 in 19th place.
I was heard that had an incident and he had to dive into it as an emergency, as he had to do earlier in the day.
Again.
So that car seems to be a bit of a troublesome one in terms of forcing him away from his commentary duties.
All cars and all teams to be advised, if there was an incident, then please report it through the steward's report form. We will be going green in a matter of seconds.
Green light returning to us then. Speaking of, actually, Joshua did message me because he was having a bit of connection trouble to us.
Code 80 is ending in 5,
earlier.
4,
There's
3,
the green light now returned to us
1. Grace is
now. So now everybody. So that's maybe of course. Oh, Hayden Rhodes has overshot his pit box, but he came in just as the green light when Vincent Evans has finally made it back to the pit lane. But Josh actually sent me a message on TeamSpeak earlier, kind of talking about our own commentary roles, and he makes a very good point of finding your own niche, finding what role best suits you. There's two very distinctive methods of commentating. What's called the play-by-play, which is typically what I do, which is the crazy lunatic shouting at everything that's going on. And then you've got what's referred to as the colour commentator, which is the one adding the technical analysis. So, real-life terms. Martin Brundle is the colour commentator, and David Croft is the play-by-play. So you've got one of you telling you what's going on, the other one telling you why, in another way of putting it. As Hayden Rhodes gets his car back underway. So that's another thing to bear in mind, is you will find a method, a style that best suits you. And those two roles aren't necessarily just completely fixed. You can kind of swap between them, but you will find you fit one better than the other by and large.
Interesting. So therefore, you would recommend with someone with technical knowledge would perhaps be better at could potentially be better at colour, and therefore find that they naturally slot into that role quite well. Whereas someone who'd come along who's a bit more energetic and interested in the shunting and the moves and has a colourful description of what's happening might be better as the taking on the main
as the play-by-play. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely, but again, that's actually brings another point of some people may think, I don't have that kind of, that's not me. I don't want to be the one shouting a lot. Josh says he hates the sound of his own voice. That's actually something you do have to get used to. That may sound a bit strange, but
yes,
you do have to get used to how you sound. It's not a case of just you hear yourself, but you don't listen to yourself, and they're two exceedingly different things. You will know when you hear yourself back on a stream. You got to get used to that, because what I do, what I certainly did in the early days, was kind of listen back to how I delivered a commentary to see more how it sounded from a spectator's point of view. You may think, well, what's the point? I was there. I know what I said. You may know what you said, but how it came across, you don't really think about it in the heat of the moment. You can't. You're doing the commentary bit. You're focusing on what's going on. You're looking at the timing screens. You're looking at the map. You're looking at everything. You can't analyse yourself at the same time. I don't have that many. I don't have that many brain cells to do all of that at the same time.
Drive-through penalty for car number 1. Unsafe rejoin on the track.
That is
Alistair Long. Yes.
That is another problem for that car.
That would be.
Has been struck by issue after issue after issue.
Yeah, that would be the rejoin that we spotted after that spin that Josh noticed before we did. So good spot there, Josh.
Indeed.
So Martin came in. It has actually closed back into 114 now.
That is a remarkable catch.
But Tino could have been in traffic when the Code 80s was released, to be fair.
Plus he did lose, although he didn't lose a lot of time. He should have lost a minute plus when he pitted. If it had been done under full
True.
flag, he would have lost still some time under the Code 80.
Good point. Yeah,
and that could explain some of the reduction from 1 minute 30 down to now 1 minute 13.9. I'm reading.
True.
Or 1 minute 14. So I think lap times will probably say that they're very even, but the gap does appear to be coming down steadily by a few tenths a lap, as it was earlier in the race.
So there is a battle I found shaping up. It's for P8 in class. He's running LMP2 off the road. Mayer there. Running LMP2 off the road, but he's in a battle currently with a car just ahead with Josh Kamaya, I think. Is it?
No, Richard Taylor is the one position ahead of Mayer, and Marius Mayer is the one behind.
Yeah,
Mayer and Mayer.
Yeah, the two Mayers were battling, and actually he's just gone off.
Mayer's gone off the track and lost 2 on-track positions to GTE cars. Obviously, they're not for actual position. Because he is 2 laps ahead of the next car behind him, but you still can't be affording those sorts of slip-ups when you've got a target directly in front of you.
Yeah, just a moment ago, he was literally just behind Josh Tamaya, but he's messed up recently, as you've seen.
Unfortunately, diffused the battle that you so excellently spotted in the midst of all the...
My data tells me who's aware. I know who's off. I know who's gone off the track.
At a stage in the race where everyone's starting to get more spread out, and we're now focusing more on, lap times and the long game, the strategy, and that is where I think more of the technical side of it comes in. The mind games, and the fitness, the tactics with, as we were talking about the driver stints. That's when that sort of stuff comes into play, as opposed to just raw pace. And I think that's now what we've got to think about. Even if it is rather exciting to watch these, especially with the front two, the gap fluctuating up and down as they respond to each other's increasing pace.
There's another battle in GT for, I believe I can't tell if it's 4th in class. I think it's 4th in class. They're not too far apart.
That would be Licton and
Melisha.
Gabor and John.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gabor Foda and John Melishar.
It's for
They
fourth
are on
place
the
in
same
class.
lap. There's 5 seconds between them, I'd say.
Yeah, there's not much at all.
That is...
Yeah, it's battle for fourth. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is the car that was the Gabor Foda is in the car that was started by Seuss, started very strongly by him, and Melishar, I forget the name of that car, but I think you mentioned it to me earlier, pointed out that car to me earlier as a fairly strong running car, I think, Josh.
That's the Chiba Hawk E-Racing car,
Yes.
32.
That's the one, the 32. There we go.
Yep, so that's where Melishar finds himself. So yeah, what's the gap between the... Oh, I thought Fodor was off then, but just that was the camera angle there. So Fodor, he is in the Racing Spirit car, Treble 2. He finds himself a dozen or so seconds, I would say, ahead of Melishar. Who's that in between them? That's Ovad, that's in between the pair of them. Martin Ovad. LMP in the between the two. As to Long in again. I think he's already served his drive-through. Well,
Huban just went off as well, losing some time there. He's been off quite a bit these last couple laps.
oh,
so.
he's brought Ovad and.
Oh, I see that. Who's that?
That's-
Fodor?
That was Mayer. No, it wasn't Mayer. It was. We were just talking about how it was Melishar and Fodor. Yeah, Fodor just gone rolling over the top.
A sign for Alexis Clopano for causing a collision.
Oh,
That is interesting. That is the 5th placed car.
yeah. Didn't see that
Driven
one.
previously by Moreno and I forget the other driver's name. But that is quite significant. A stop and go penalty for causing a collision. I wonder what's happened there.
That's Lalavi that was in the car previously. So
Yeah.
Clopano's only just taken that over. And he's served the stop-go now. So underway. Didn't see that particular incident. Long in for a tyre change. Ovad is in after that collision with Fodor's continued. So that's interesting. Considering he was kind of rolling over, I thought he'd be in. As Alistair Long hands that True Sports car number 1 over to Peter Schultz. That's a name I most certainly recognise from these parts. He's got a fair amount of work to do to try and close down the gaps. And there's another thing about the mental game as well, that it's very easy for those that are kind of outside of esports or sim racing in general to think, oh, it's only a game. And yes, whilst that's the medium through which the drivers are displaying their skill, it's no less a skillful display than that of the only thing it doesn't translate into its real world form is G-force. G-force withstanding essentially.
Yes.
But there's still a lot of mental training that these guys they have to deal with the pressure of being on track for so long. Even in short races, when you've got an audience on you, especially if you're representing an organisation, that's when it starts to really become serious. Particularly if there's money involved, where you've got team or sponsorship representation. That adds pressure, and you've got to have the mental fortitude to deal with that pressure. And that is where a lot of the those outside of sim racing and esports, outside of those circles, just don't give enough credit, because there is no escaping from the fact that these guys are athletes. They are very physically fit by and large. I mean, you look at all the esports drivers going through Formula 1 of them, they're all sticks. There's no hint of jealousy there at all.
That's the one sort of person that I can relate to in modern media. Quite a lot of people that you see who play video games typically are not sticks, decidedly. However, they are very, very light-looking human beings, almost as if almost like a real racing driver would like to be. Obviously, you want to be strong, obviously, to be able to withstand those G-forces, as you mentioned, but you don't want to be as light as physically possible, so that you don't hinder your team by adding unnecessary weight to the car.
Yeah.
Which can in the real world at least cause other effects. I remember reading a story about Marcus Ericsson in Formula 1. He's raced for the past few years without a water bottle in his car to save weight, because he is heavier than the average racing driver. So, but
That's-
you imagine doing racing around tracks such as Malaysia and Singapore for 2 hours without a water bottle. That must have been extremely strenuous.
There's a counter to that as well, because when they did have water bottles, the like of Malaysia, the water was hot.
Precisely. So it can be incredibly difficult, and so it's good to see that they, some of that
30-second stop go
help.
penalty awarded to car number 97 for causing a collision.
That's not a surprise.
Wow.
That was MortenOvat. That was the incident we
Yes.
saw with him and Gabor Fodor. So he
That
was obviously
photo was rolling over, wasn't it?
yeah. And Martin, exploring track limits a little bit, but he's got to settle himself back down. He may feel a bit aggrieved by that issue, but he's got to just get on with it and settle down, get back into the rhythm. Again, this comes back to the mental game where, yes, something's gone wrong. Whether you feel it was your fault or not, it's not really the point. You've got to get on with it, get back into the rhythm, deal with it later, so to speak. But just you've got to get back into that mental state where you're at your peak, and it's something that is very easily overlooked from the wider world. That these guys are, these are some of the best in the business. Let's not forget. At exactly that, not just the actual driving skill, but the mental game that goes with it.
Yes. Sorry about that. I was just dragged off for a second. Speaking of mental and mentally refreshed,
Joshua Meyer stopped. I'm sorry, Joshua Meyer stopped. He looks like he has a massive problem. He's had a crash actually.
Oh dear.
With who is that? Is it Hooper? I don't know. I can't tell.
He's travelling slowly.
It was Don Napper that was off track just then.
Yeah, he's had a
They
crash.
both
With him.
look like they've suffered serious injuries. But quickly, as we're saying, talking about mentally refreshed and physically refreshed, we're joined by a physically and mentally refreshed Ron from the start of the stream. I believe Ron Squire's back in the commentary box with us. So welcome back, Ron.
Alistair out.
And I'm just going to quickly dive across the stewards as they need me, but I'm sure he can fill in for me while I'm gone. So yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Phil. So we're going back here. This is the 12 Hours of Sebring. We're around halfway into this race, and Nakariran, who had a good run until what happened before I went offline. Nearly went pear-shaped for him, but now he's back in commanding form.
Peter and P8 has just retired.
Oh,
He has.
no.
Yeah, that car. He's only just taken that car over as well.
Yeah.
Schultz has retired the car. We'll see if he's able to, whether it's a connection problem or some issue of that description, or whether that is parked for the rest of the race. But what a great shame. He's just taken that over as Alistair Long has suffered that car quite a bit for the last 20 minutes before Schultz took over, and now it is parked. Oh dear, oh dear. I
don't
wondered.
think that's... Sorry.
No, go on.
I was going to say, I don't think that's the first time that car's retired, so...
He could come back because it is still, it is possible for them to rejoin. I wonder whether Hemmingson has either just had a lot of bad luck with traffic or whether he's got a problem of some description because he's losing time on Tino.
Chris, I don't know if you've seen it earlier today, but when I think it was, what was his name? Chris. He was in the other Team Tepper car, and Hayden, and he was like, I thought he was retiring right in the middle of the track, and Hayden Rhodes, an exact replica of the previous event Spa, pushed him all the way to the pit.
That's sportsmanship for you.
No, I'm just saying, did you see it?
I didn't, unfortunately. I have seen it done, but I didn't see that specific one happen.
One in Spa and one here. Replicas pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah.
As you were saying, you said Hemmingson lost a lot of time. I'm looking at my thing. It says he had an offing about a minute ago, or a minute or two ago. So that might have been where he's lost his time.
Yeah, he seemed to have picked up the pace again, but again, he could have. They could be catching me out a little bit. They could be kind of doing a bit of either fuel or tyre saving, or just maybe if they're overheating
Richard
the tyres a
Taylor
little
spun
bit.
at final corner. Sorry, he's in the middle of the track.
Who spun?
Richard Taylor.
Oh dear, and he's not. Oh, he's now moving in the corner. Oh, nearly taking the wall with him. That's the Bottle Job Racing GTE 24. Oh, that was a bit unlucky. Raoul Hubin's in again, and that's a driver change for. Who was that?
Was it Mayer?
It was Mayer and
Yep.
his JP Paul's in.
JP Paul is in. That's the Haven Racing 117. So
Yep.
handed over.
And Raoul Hobin is also in as well, and his counterpart Cameron Roger had a good going today as well. Hobin going so consistently, as well.
Yeah, that's True Esports car number 2. The car number 1 for True Esports has parked at the moment, and it doesn't show any signs of returning, sadly. So I'm just looking to see if Raoul's going to hand that car over.
Hemingston's also just had an off, losing quite a bit of time. It looks like Tatoué might actually unlap himself
Yes,
from him.
well, they're allowed to do as long as they don't hold up the person they're unlapping themselves from. As Cameron Roger now takes over car number 2 again and leaving the pits. He lost that position to Hayden Rhodes that's the second Team Temper car. I keep saying Temper, it's not right, Team Temper car. Actually, they're both in the same point of the track.
Lady Temper.
Yeah. So 5 laps apart, but they're sharing the same bit of tarmac at the moment as now Karinen. I say Norkarinen, but that's not how I believe it is actually said. Tino, as he's often referred to as, and that's the cop-out I tend to use. Oh, wow, Hemingston's in a lot of traffic and had to weave his way.
Oh, Christ.
Oh, blimey, he just had to literally part the ways from 2 Porsches in the middle of a turn there. I'm just seeing where that was. He just did that through turns 15 and 16. Absolute full crank. That was very impressive from Hemingston.
Yeah, you do need to be careful with these traffic. It's could be dangerous, basically.
Evers having yet another offing, nearly putting in the wall. He's just able to avoid it this time though,
Gabor
as he looks to be
Fodor's
back at
in.
speed.
Yep, Gabor Fodor brings in the Germany-coloured Porsche. That is the Racing Spirit Treble 2. So, a few driver changes going on. We'll see if he is one of them. And that gap up front increased now to 124 between the two. Still a long way to go. So
Bodo, he came in for Seuss, didn't he? I think.
yes, well, Seuss I think opened the batting for the Racing Spirit team. Or he's been in the car earlier. Well, they all have.
Yeah, he's been in the car. So either Farkas or Farkas is the yet to drive. Because
I was going to say Farkas hasn't been in it yet, from what I gather.
Farkas hasn't been in.
So he should be taking over that Porsche. I'll keep an eye on that one. I've just realised that Tatuhei was in 3rd earlier, and Zuba has long since taken over that 3rd spot, and there's a good half a lap between them.
Bodo has remained in the car seat. No change.
No change for Gabor Fodor then.
And let's have a look at the be part of the GTE class, and Mikolai Maleki still in front of in class set. Very lucky. I did that. Ross Woodford in 2nd in class, lifting behind as well. So yeah.
Just trying to figure out where they are on track. So give an indication on time between.
Bodo nearly just went wide, just going. Was it the dreaded tower turn?
Yep, that was tower. Yeah. Such an awkward corner. It's so slow and exceedingly bumpy.
But you should see how many people have
What's
spun
Hemingston
at
spun?
tower today.
Oh, Hemingston has spun.
He's just come back on now. He was lucky to keep it out of the wall there.
Several times we've seen that from Hemingston as well in the DDoS car. He's really pushing hard, and that's going to add to the frustration as well. He's just got to calm down and get back in the rhythm. It's easy for us to say. Of course, it's easy for us to say. There he is coming through tower now. So that was down to the hairpin. I think he had that problem. But yeah, it's so hard when you're pressing on when you're in a good position. You're trying your best to either close a gap down or increase a gap, and frustration adds to mistakes, add to frustration, add to mistakes. That snowball can really get out of control. And you push too hard, you end up backwards into the wall, and it can really get out of hand. So calm down, Martin. You've got a long way to go. You're still in a damn good spot. Easy for me to say. I'm again well aware of that. But he's doing brilliantly well to hang on to that second. But those mistakes are just going to push the race victory, potential race victory, further and further away from them.
There's only one battle on track right now that is pretty close, and that's right at the back between Clausen and Smith. Clausen really trying to defend against Smith. Remember, Clausen was top of the GTE category earlier on today, and look how far he has fallen. Purely because of mistakes of others. I mean, Sims in particular, it just didn't work out for his teammate. And now Clausen has to suffer.
It's a very unfortunate, and again, that really can kind of add to the frustration when you're caught up in a battle that had nothing to do with you, or you're caught up in a mistake that had nothing to do with you.
I just want to report Christoph Miller has taken over from Marriott's Van Week just now.
He has indeed on that golf-coloured Porsche. He makes his way back on track.
Richard Taylor's in the wall.
Oh dear.
God.
Sector 1. He's just reversed out of it just now, coming back on track, 7th in class.
That's again the Bottle Job Racing 24 Corvette. Oh dear.
Also, we made a rule earlier not to mention any bottle job jokes.
Well, that's the team name more than a joke regarding it. I'll add.
I know.
Oh, you're just informing me of. I did laugh at that particular point in the stream because I think it wasn't. I think Jess was in the commentary box at the time, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking about bottle jobs and long jokes because Alistair Long.
Alistair Long.
He went very long there. No, okay, that's enough. That's enough.
It's difficult. You have my sympathies.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, back on topic now. How many laps is Schultz behind, by the way?
Yeah, Schultz still hasn't. I think it's fairly safe to assume that car's not going to reappear.
Yeah, I know the car's not going to reappear. I just want to know, just in case if Martin Ovad's going to overtake. And Hemmison's in.
He is indeed. Is he handing that car over? He's been in there a little while now.
Rance hasn't appeared yet.
Well, Rance was in when I came into the box an hour ago, but I wasn't sure how long he'd been in it for.
Brian Taylor, yet another offing. You've just come back on.
I would say another offing, but I will say this. When I came off, Hamilton was there all the time in the car.
He did a long stint, didn't he?
Yeah,
4.5 hours.
Yeah, purely because they had trouble with the other car, so they had to go. So I had to go into a different car, and I thought it was just a completely different person because there was a guy called Multisport Life. I don't know, and he was using the other car, which was the now inverted P1 car.
He hasn't changed either. He's still in it.
He's still in it.
He's going again. Car 75 is now leaving the pits.
Oh God.
He's gonna. He has to be careful because he's gonna be hitting his race time limits fairly soon. I'd have thought.
I thought he would hit it when I got off there because 4 hours is the limit, isn't it, per stint?
Yeah, they've got themselves a penalty for that, but isn't it a 7-hour race stint overall? 7-hour race limit or something like that. I think wasn't that what Phil was alluding to earlier?
If it was a 7-hour race limit, because 4 hours he went offline. I went to wait for a couple of hours. So he must be hitting it.
He's
Eddie.
getting. Yeah, well,
gonna hit it by 9 o'clock.
Liam has had a stint in the car, but so I'm not entirely sure for. But yeah, if that is the case, then Hemmington's got to be careful with that one. Liam's got a long stint ahead of him through the night.
I believe he's going to be gone by 9 o'clock. If he's not gone by 9 o'clock, I don't know what to think.
We will see. But he finds himself a lap down then from the lead LMP. Team Tepper, Tino, now Karinen, leading the way in car number 9. So Martinson, now mixing up his first and surname. Martin Hemmington in second, as mentioned in the DDoS Racing 75. James Zioba, I'm hoping I'm getting that somewhere near right. He is in the Blanks prototype, car number 8, in third, fairly comfortably now. Jaime Tatuhei continues to press on in the 360 Motorsports car 23 in fourth place. Just catching to the back of Gaber Fodor in the Germany coloured Porsche. Comes past him fairly easily. Alexis Clapano, saw him get a stop go penalty earlier on, but is back in his rhythm in 5th position in the Lalave Motorsport Project car 20. Hayden Rhodes in 6th place in the second Team Temper car. I did it again, I keep saying Temper, for goodness sake. Car number 10 in 6th place, minding his own business. Cameron Roger has taken that car over from Raul Huben in the last stop. So in the black and white True Esports car number 2. In 7th. In 8th is Tobias Book in the Bottle Door Racing B car number 68. Again, he's 4 laps down from Roger, so some work to do. It's going to be fairly lonely as far as positions are concerned. Schultz is classed as 9th, but is not likely to return. Martin Ovad in the... I cannot pronounce that. I can't pronounce the racing team, I'm afraid. It's car number 97.
Hold on, let me try it. Car number 97.
Of
Kilensi.
Kilensi.
Of Kilensi.
I've murdered that. I'm so sorry.
I've murdered it. Carry on.
In currently classed in 10th position. Then Vincent Evers in the now Infinity Racing car 36. We saw him without a rear wing a while ago. Has continued to press on, is at least now clear of the GTEs. It was in the GTEs for quite some time, but is now pressing on in 11th, leading the GTEs in 12th overall is Mikolai Maliki in the M8. Pressing on. He's been in that car a long time as well, so fair play to him. Is doing him very well, leading the class by a lap. And on he goes. Ross Woodford, a name I certainly recognise, commentated on him quite a few times in the another Team Tepper car number 11. So he comes past Mayer to put another lap on him. He is second in class, 13th overall. Lucas Lichten in the lead Porsche car number 33. That is the Mad Hawk Racing. Porsche finds himself a couple of laps down from Ross Woodford. Lance Link. I'm getting easy names wrong now. That's terrible.
You want me to do the rest?
Oh, but why not? Be my guest. There's me hogging the microphone. That's very selfishly of me.
Yeah, I know. Okay, we've got Lance Link in 15th overall for Chiba Hawk E-Racing. We've got Gabba Foda, who's in 16th overall, driving, of course, for... Where is it? Racing Spirit. That's the Racing Spirit, the Germans. Ben Kay, 17th overall for Seawolf Next Race Motorsports. I rate that name. Richard Taylor is 18th overall and is driving, of course, for Bottle Job Racing. Joshua Mayer driving the one of the now Infinity car. Is it? Yeah, that's definitely the one on the spotter, because there's a car like this not on the spotter, and he's out. Okay, JP Paul for Hayden Racing, 20th overall. Napa is in the pits for Global E-Races. I'm not sure if he's going to change over. Brett Gray is in it earlier, as was Oberhoser. Alexander Jones just came past in the satellite racing team. Christoph Muller for... Where is it? It's not on the spotter.
No, I don't. I was thinking I was missing it, but no, he's not on my spotter either.
Okay. Simon Clausen for DDOS Racing. He was leading this category earlier. And Jeffrey Smith for 360 Motorsports GTE. That's all. But now I've been told that we need to have a word with our sponsors. So I will do it. This race is brought to you by Sadler Computers. They are a Nottingham-based business which sells R Factor 2 dedicated servers that start from £7.99 a month. Our powerful Intel Xeon-based R Factor dedicated gaming servers will have you covered. Whether you are an R Factor 2 sim racing league or a sim racing team, we are confident that we'll supply a server that will be both reliable and above all cost effective. Our R Factor 2 servers are fully customizable to whatever settings you desire, providing a worry-free racing experience. Visit Sadler Computers in the description below.
Happy days.
Yes.
Alright, so I've been given some inside information for Martin Hemmingson's team about stints. So Martin Hemmingson's doing the next stint, and then they're switching over to Christian Lewis for his stint in the team. Because he's racing for this team for this one event, I hear. He's actually a DDoS racing driver. He's in the same team that I am. We didn't do this event. We're doing the next one, so that'll be fun. But
he's defected.
He's defected. He's gone to the DDoS guy.
Sure does.
Yeah. But he's going to be taking over from Martin Hemminson, so it doesn't look like we're going to be seeing Liam Rance again today. So Liam Rance's time was up when he got out of the car earlier.
That's one thing I do like. We were having a lot of discussions about commentary roles and that sort of thing. This is one thing that is I do love about endurance racing. There's much more opportunity just to interject that little bit of humour, just that little bit of, I'd say nonsense, but just something amusing, just to break the flow a little bit. It's much more difficult in sprint races because there just tends to be that much less time involved. Sounds a bit obvious, but yeah, when you've got gaps, it's great to fill it with just something to make you smile and chuckle. It's one reason I absolutely love endurance racing commentary.
And references.
Yes. Absolutely. Who shall we find?
And the Ghost Battle. And we can't find it.
I think. Go on.
I think Tahuti just nearly went off the road then. Also, I don't take JP Paul, but no infringement whatsoever.
He carries on his merry way. He just sides past the. That's Muller in the as he's not on our spotter, I'm going to call it. That's now the Golf Racing Porsche, as it's in the correct colour scheme for that. Oh, nearly. Well, it looked close from the external camera angle. He nearly slammed to the back of Joshua Mayer. But that's the thing. It's very often looks very different perspective-wise from the external camera to the internal one. There may have been loads of room there. It just looked like he was about to introduce his nose to the tail of the now Infinity Racing 3666. I want to try and find out the distance between Mikolai Miliki in 12th and Ross Woodford in 13th. The two GTV cars, they're on the same lap. Now, Maliki's just crossing the line. Oh, he's actually coming in. Where's Woodford? Oh, he's 3/4 of a lap behind him. He's coming over the hairpin, isn't he? Yeah, that's Tower, so that's about half a lap between the two. Is Maliki going to change driver then? That's the Sakura Racing 657 BMW M8. Will they change? And I thought we'd lost somebody else then, but I just realised that's someone that had retired quite some time ago. I was about to suddenly announce a retiree that retired about 200 laps ago. That was observant of me. I just saw a white name on the list. I was like, oh, we're not. No, we haven't. No, and Maliki continues. Wow, he's been in that car an exceedingly long time.
Maybe I didn't. Let me just check.
Unless he'd just taken it over soon after I appeared, because as far as I'm aware, he's the only one that's driven that car. But
Well, I think yeah, you're definitely right. He's the only one who's been in there for a time.
For a
when
while.
I went off, yeah, for a while when I went off there. The previous guy in that car was Bulat,
aha.
and the man who started the race, who has been for the majority of the time, was King-Kodiak. And I'll tell you now, that was a hard name to pronounce.
Yeah. I'm looking at that thinking I'm never going to say it. How did you say it? King-Kodiak. Zuzki. Gotcha.
And say it very fast.
Ooh, Smith's in the wall.
Oh, crap.
Jeffrey
Another
Smith.
one. Jeffrey Smith from the
Someone.
from the tail of the field.
Right, I'm going to say it now. Jeffrey Smith has not had a good race in any aspect. I mean, he has been consistent, but just not a good race. Quite a race, though. But
It's the way it happens sometimes, isn't it?
yeah, basically, Minardi. I don't know why.
Well, similar colours.
No,
Well-
not similar colours. I mean, if it was similar colours to this, I would say like Dallara.
Dallara, yeah, I thought they were red.
Scuderia Italia then.
Yeah, they were red and white, if I remember.
They
Go
were
on.
red and white.
Well, you're going back quite a few years for them.
They were the Ferraris of the back markers.
True, yes.
I'm so sorry to everyone who's actually watching this who is actually a Dallara Italia fan.
There couldn't have been many of them in the F1 days.
Okay, that's some shots as well.
Well, yeah, they didn't do well.
Yeah, that's putting it kindly.
Yes, that's very democratic. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what else is happening.
Tino's about to put another lap on Jaime Tatuhei. There's both of them just coming on that last turn. Puts the fourth place runner at 3 laps down.
And he's coming in.
Ooh, Roger has spun it. He's in the middle of the track, actually, stationary. He's going to have to get out of the way there.
Another problem for the True Esports car number 2.
And
Well-
Tino's in.
Yeah, Tino is in.
Yeah, just saw it now.
Does he hand that car over back to James Clay? Well, no, he did say he was going to be back in about an hour, but he was thinking on leaving Tino in there. Have they changed their mind up on that?
I think it's quite likely they have.
I think Tino can run for like another couple of hours. Then he can hand it over to Clay. Because as Tino just came on the time I've come on.
Tino's been in there. No, Tino's been in there quite a while.
Tino's been there quite a while, so yeah, like another hour or so.
Yeah.
Then hand it over to Clay.
There's James Zubia. Again, another name.
James Zuba.
Zuba.
James
And
Zuba.
Clay is in the car.
Yes, James Clay has taken
Oi.
over the race-leading Team Tepper car.
Don't run out of fuel, James.
Not again.
Not again. That's such a shame. It's one of those things that kind of haunts a driver. No matter where you go, that sad reputation just follows you.
There are many different things that haunts drivers. Whatever you want, to be honest.
True.
Sorry?
True. One of my co-commentators had a crack at doing a Le Mans event, and due to his inexperience he came into the pits. He got a little bit confused because the pit crew didn't come out, and then he missed his pit box and had 1.5 litres to do one whole lap of Le Mans.
And did he make it?
No, it didn't go well. But he got right the way through the Porsche curves. He was right up to within about probably 100 metres of the pit lane entrance. If someone had shoved him, he probably would have got there, but nobody did. No one did, sadly. So it's one of these things that he basically did almost the entire lap on just like hybrid energy alone.
And Clay nearly lost it then at, I believe that was, I don't know if that was Tower or...
No, that was, I think, around 3, 4, and 5, I think. I don't think it was Tower. But yeah, I saw that. Clay channeling his inner Ken block there. His inner drift. There's Rhodes and Clapano are in. Fifth.
So I will say this. Ken Block or Colin McRae?
Ooh, different eras. That's hard.
I mean, sorry to interrupt. I'm back from my stewarding duties. I'm going to butt in here and say straight away, Colin McRae, someone I grew up watching,
And playing.
dominate,
Likewise, yeah.
rallying. Before he died, obviously. When he died, I was still quite a young child, but growing up watching him and his rallying skill, I think, not to say Kim Block isn't a good driver, but there are people who are still in rallying and rallycross and drifting today who you can compare to him. Sebastian Loeb being one of them that comes to mind, along with many rallycross individuals. But for me, back when Colin McRae was rallying, at least there was, in my mind, no one who could really touch him. And to me, he'll always be the dominant rally driver, other than maybe Richard Burns.
Well, Nicky Grist was the co-pilot for McRae, I seem to recall. So
might well have been, yeah.
I think it was
the
Nicky
name does
Grist.
ring a bell.
Yeah, Richard Burns never had the. In my mind, Burns was never an equal to McRae.
No, but I think he's the only person that comes.
Oh,
mind
that could have gone
think
close. Oh, I see.
Because he was remotely comparable.
Mm.
That I can think of from that era. I mean, as I say, I was quite a small child and don't remember a huge amount of the names. But to have McRae stick as a name that I still think about today whenever anyone says great rally drivers, that shows you the scale of the impression that he leaves on someone who only hears of him in passing.
Who would you say is like the most underrated champion in WRC?
I don't follow it close enough to know.
Neither. I wouldn't say I follow WRC to say underrated champions. At the moment, I would say people are being quite harsh on Chris Meeks. I think he's an incredibly talented driver, and to fire him for crashing too much. I mean, yes, obviously, when you crash a lot, you use a big number of use a lot of the finances available to the team, and that can be quite detrimental. But I think he's an incredibly talented rally driver, and I think it's quite harsh of him to kick him out just because he has a couple of accidents.
Yeah. I wouldn't say particularly this particularly, but like in the past. For example, Petter Solberg, for example, he was a good driver.
My knowledge really doesn't expand too much outside of Formula One. In that it goes back quite a long way, because I'm an old bear. So I started watching F1 back in the 90s, in the Senna Prost era.
The best era you got to watch.
Yeah, the best era.
That's how I clocked on the Dallara Scuderia Italia reference. But I mean, even then I was pretty young. 91 when I started watching, I was 11. It gives you a bit of a clue as to how old I am.
30s.
You'd be correct.
Are we not?
I'm not going to say more specific because I don't want to.
30. I've no bones about my age. 38 is.
There you go. That's
my age.
Decent. Well, I've got to say, my main series that I know the most about would also be Formula One. Having been brought into it by my dad, who used to sit me on his lap and make me watch the Formula One with him on Sundays. That's how I originally got into it.
Watch!
Well, it was more that I was a kid and needed someone to,
guide you through it.
Guide me through it. But
and I remember, and it was the same thing with my dad when I got into Formula One. I remember watching it. My first race, I remember watching it. I was scared of the cars. 1996. I think it was at Spa. and the first car I saw was a Benetton. I'm not sure who was at the wheel. It was either Lacey or it was Berger. I'm not too sure who it was. But I've started to remember more races. Remember them from like 1999, in particular the British Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher
Ooh,
crashing
yes.
out.
A lot of British
Great
fans remember that one. That was Eddie Irvine's shining moment, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I remember if it was like the British Grand Prix like weekend, we would have like pizza baps and just have perhaps have a couple of beers as well, just for special occasions like that.
Sounds like a good time. I'll tell you what's also someone who's also having a good time, and that is Adam Karskowski.
Karkowski.
I probably butchered that name, but I'm going to drag him in
Yeah, he's
for
just
an interview. So, Adam, how are we doing? Hello. How's it going?
We are leaving.
That's always a positive. We've seen your stint and watched you with interest. Having to fend off the other BMW M8, the pink one. I forget which team it runs for. It's Tepper
Team
car, I
Tepper,
believe.
yes.
How are things running in your mind?
Yeah, I had to give away the car after the second hour of the second stint because I had to put my kids to sleep. So, so that was the reason why I didn't also drove the third hour. But yeah, we have around 1 lap advantage, almost, right now, over the Tepa BMW, and yeah, it's looking good.
So you must be feeling pretty damn confident then, going into the latter stages of the race.
Yeah, after that what was going on, like I say, during the first 2 hours, so yeah, of course.
Push pronounced the T-Buzz Team Temper. And after the stints between both Bulat and Maliki, do you think that you got a little bit of work to do, just to had a little bit of work to do, just trying to push it back up, because as we saw earlier, it was a little bit struggling earlier.
Yeah, it was still like we made some changes. We made some changes along the way, you can see, for the rear spoiler and the pressures in the tires. And right now the car is handling very good, with very good times. For example, my second hour was going very good, you can say, until like through the whole stint. I was easily making the 59, so like, yeah, right now the car is going very well. For Mikołaj, it's only those 2 hours, and that's it. So then I think then Grzegorz will come in for 2 hours, and then I will finish the race with like 1.5 till the end.
Lovely. Can I just ask, you and your teammates looking very comfortable running in that M8, but at the start of the race we saw the GTE class majoritively being fought for by the lone Corvette and some Porsches. What made you choose the M8 as the car that you guys wanted to drive in this series?
We also race in the VEC, in the VLMS series, so like every chance or opportunity to race with this car and to gain more, you can say, experience, even that we already gained a lot, yeah. So it's not like we are rookies, but yeah, it's like only, you can say, to be on top of the game, like every kilometer that you go in the same car in every series, because we also race in other series and also with the same car. It's still, you can say, to know the tires better, you can say, sometimes to if you can say the series is not so, let's say, I don't want to say like profi or amateur, but you can say that we don't that we approach it, you can say, with a much more let's say more experimental setup, yeah, for the car. If we try, you can say, a bit lower wing, more mechanical grip, yeah. So we like to, you can say, experiment with the car and to simply to learn it more and more.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, considering where you're positioned in this race, and considering how well you know your teammates, presumably racing with them in other series, how confident are you with getting good results throughout the rest of the season? And what are you expecting from yourselves? Are you just using this to just continue to learn, or have you got goals for where you're finishing in the series?
Of course we want to win. Yeah. That is the point, you can say, to compete. Yeah. So of course that is the target to win the series, no matter if it's like shorter or longer, bigger, or how many cars are attending. But still, if you look at the right now, you can say for the 12-hour race, so it's the long, you can say, round of the series, and with such amount of cars, you can say like 28 cars, and still only like 3 or 4 are out. So that is quite a good run, I would say, for the series. And I hope that you can say for those shorter races that the amount of cars, teams, and that will attend will be much higher.
Well, unless does anyone else have any other questions?
I do not.
No, I'm good.
Fair enough. Well, thank you for coming to talk to us, Adam.
No problem.
And good luck with the rest of your race.
Thank you.
Now, I've got a treat for you, Chris, because we've got another interview, and it is with someone that you have loved watching this race so far. We've got Tino. So, hello, Tino.
Oh, hello.
How's it going?
I'm really tired.
But it looked like it was going extremely well, leading by a decent margin. How are you feeling about the remainder of this race? Are you very confident that you've now got this in the bag?
Yeah, like literally when I jumped on the car like 3 hours ago, when we were 2 laps down after that fuel incident, I will never thought we will be leading by 1 lap after. So we literally gained 3 laps on the DDoS 75. So I mean, obviously they have their issues, but still we also had our issues. So I guess it works like pretty well. So, but I said to my teammates on when we were talking that was literally one of my best ever drives in like my whole sim racing career. I'm pretty sure about that. Like 0 mistakes probably, and just like doing fastest times every single lap. So and inside 2 hours and 30 minutes. So yeah.
Yeah. So when you came off your stint first time, we see that James Clay take over for you, and he didn't really go to plan. And you spent some time trying to build it back up, and now you're back and giving the car back to Clay. Do you think that Clay will try and learn from his mistakes this time?
He's pretty like inexperienced in kind of races, so obviously.
No, I'm interested today.
Okay, yeah. I've told him pretty like a lot of times that maybe that's a mistake. Yeah, I really hope he's not doing the same mistake. Yeah.
Hello, Tino.
Oh, hello. You know that voice.
He was spoken to me once or twice. I have a couple of questions actually on that very same point that you've just been asked on. James alluded himself that he's quite inexperienced in this type of race. Do you feel that puts any more pressure on you to try and sort of carry him further? I mean, he's doing pretty well at the moment, obviously carrying on from where you left off. But does it put any more pressure on you to perform well with James having less experience?
Yeah, I really think so. That like, because obviously he doesn't have that much experience, and well, pace-wise we're pretty even. So like, but still like mentally I think I'm a bit stronger. But that means like I need to deliver to us to get really good result. But it's also from him. Obviously he has pressure as well. But I think it makes sense that that I need to like deliver as well. So yeah, that's correct.
And how on earth have you fit practice in for this in amongst? Because you got the third round of the F1 Esports finals coming up, You've got obviously the league race tomorrow in AOR. How on earth have you fit this in?
Good question. Like, well, I haven't done that much practice for this compared to James. Like, he have done, I'd say 3 times more practice than me for this, just sake of I've been practicing for F1 eSport and obviously AOR a little bit, so yeah. It has been tough. Like, I've not have been that much of like free time other than just playing games, so yeah. It's but I love sim racing and what I want to do, so yeah. And I love endurance racing as well, so I mean the timing wise this race is not like perfect, I think, because on Monday I'm flying to the UK. So, so yeah, I mean I just want to do this as well, and requires a lot of free time to invest on this, and that's it.
Awesome.
Great. I have another question that I asked your teammate as well, and I want to get your perspective on it from someone who I guess I could call a pro sim racer, in every aspect of the word. What sort of tips would you give to a beginner coming into sim racing and trying to improve? What sort of tips would you give them? Things to look out for to make sure like they avoid getting into bad habits and making mistakes.
I think obviously the main thing is just get the right equipment, like a wheel, PC which is like good enough for playing the games, and obviously then, well yeah, I mean, just well first it will be just learn how to like use no assist first, obviously, because those are like hindering, like using, like you lose pace and assist, and obviously in sim games like this you can't really use assist at all, so yeah, I mean after that when you got that, then you literally need to like, I think it's important to find like right kind of friends who you can play with and like enjoy playing with and having time with, and then it's pretty much just I think just practicing as much as you can in your free time, but not like next level, like kind of like that you're using like half of your day for just playing the games. It's just like equal, like balancing things. Yeah, I mean that's how I've done it. And yeah, like it's not really that. There is not that much secrets though. Like start on.
Being signed by Williams probably helps.
Yeah, that's... and then not that much of like things apart from just getting the equipment and just practicing.
Fair enough. A sort of follow up to that question is you mentioned making sure you have good equipment. What sort of equipment do you prefer to use, and how much do you think having better equipment helps you in terms of pace and consistency? Do you think having a more high-end wheel and pedals as opposed to a cheap one helps significantly, or is it only a small difference?
Well, I mean, at least for me, like, like 4 months ago. Well, okay, if you like starter, I'd say, like, maximum what I will get is like 300 pounds wheel, or like G29 or T300 or something like that kind of things is good for starters, obviously. And then, but let's just say if you have already PC, which is pretty good enough, so that's literally just it, like 300 pounds. And but well, to be fair, because right now I have like Fanatic equipment, which is like over 1,000 pounds worth. So before I had G29, so I can say that it's pace-wise, it's not really that much different. I have to say it's more just helping on consistency. Like pedals are much better. Like I don't make that many braking mistakes, and I'm more consistent on going to the throttle. And then obviously on this wheel it has much precise like force feedback, so you literally feel so much more stuff. And I don't want to say it have made me faster, it just made me more consistent. So that's why I think like for starter, like investing a lot for wheel and those kind of things is not that much worth it. Like, so.
Fair enough.
I mean, if you need a home for your G29 or the Fanatec, I mean, I'll give you my address.
That's I'll repeat. So.
Yeah. Any more questions?
No, just gonna say like now little I'd say like 2 hours rest and then tonight the race for us. So let's see how that goes. And I'm really looking forward to night. That's nice. Like hopefully we end the race as a winner. It's really good.
Good luck, Tino.
Fair enough. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, see ya, Chris, tomorrow in.
You certainly shall, my friend. and good luck for Wednesday as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, good luck.
We just had a driver change for, I believe.
It's Liam Davis.
Liam Davis, who's come in for.
I forgot. I had it then. I've completely forgotten who it was.
Listen.
That's yeah.
Oh, Lichten, yeah.
For Mad Hawk E-Racing.
So Hemmingson's been off a lot recently. He's been spinning quite a bit, and it's been confirmed that Hemmingson's coming in at 9 o'clock to switch with Christian Lewis.
Called it.
Yep. That was on you.
Sorry, was that to swap with Christian Lewis? Did you say?
Indeed.
Now, that interests me greatly because I had it down that was now you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I had that down as a 2-person car.
That's what my spotter says.
No, it is a 2-person car. He's
a 2-person car.
So Lewis is on the same team that I'm on, which is BIR Racing. We're not doing this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll be doing the future ones, but for this race, specifically this one, DDoS asked him if he would want to.
Oh, you did explain that at the beginning.
Yeah, so
I was listening.
So he will be taking over after, so he'll be finishing this. Yes.
So we're going to get a preview of your driving partner.
Yeah.
Future. No pressure.
Future references.
Luckily,
Yeah,
I'm not racing in the same team as him. I'm racing in the other one, but yeah.
Wow.
I said luckily. You noticed that.
Car.
Yes, Ben K in the pits.
Rookie Monsters, car 73, has come in. Also, whilst we were enjoying the dulcet tones of Tino, and yes, I'm a fanboy, and I'm not ashamed of that, Gable Fodor had an odd incident where he literally vanished. So he had some kind of technical problem. He's resumed, he has reappeared and rejoined the race, but I was actually watching, I think it was James, it was coming down the start-finish straight, and Gable was actually behind him and just went.
Oh, yeah. He retired for some reason. He had retired for a short period of time. He's back in now, but he was in the garage.
Malcolm Smith is in for one of the Rookie Monsters.
He's in the Ben K car.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gable Fodor's had a series of odd incidents in this portion of the race, which I think might partially down to connection issues that have led to some quite strange incidents. We mentioned earlier the incident where he went flying and rolling around and then just continued on. Had a section of time where he was retired and then came back. Quite interesting. Something I've noticed, I don't know if James Clay's picked up some damage somewhere, but in the last seemingly 2 or 3 laps, he's lost 10 seconds to Martin Hemmingsson. So I don't know if Hemmingson's put now Hemmingson's in. Hemmingson's in the pits.
Oh, nearly caught the wall.
Swap.
Yeah, this might be the swap. This would be interesting. But that's interesting that on those last few low fuel laps, he's caught 10 whole seconds. So I don't know whether James Clay's been caught up in traffic or whether he's made a mistake or what, but that is quite a substantial amount of time to lose. My lap times say that he's done a 1 minute 50.1 and a 1 minute 49.4, which are not lap times that would set the world alight. They're quite slow lap times for that car, considering they weren't pit in or out laps, but they're not exactly terribly slow at the same time. To catch 10 seconds in 2 or 3 laps, it would require
a mistake of some description.
Yeah. Well, either that or for Hemmingsson to be absolutely on it, like he's never been before.
Well, he has been pushing hard, because again, whilst we were talking to Tino, I sort of keep an eye on James and on Martin up front, and Martin was going some very, should we say, questionable moves to try and get past the get through the traffic, and it's actually Liam Rance is in the car again.
Oh dear.
My info was wrong.
Interesting. Well, to be fair, that does ensure that Martin Hemmingson does not go over his total time, which potentially cuts down on a second penalty to be applied to that car. Avoids that nicely, and Liam Rance does have a significant amount of time that he's still able to race. He's only done one stint, so you know that information may come good later on in the race. There's more than enough time for another driver swap to take place. We still have a good 4 hours of racing to go, so I wouldn't count it out.
Indeed. Yeah, still a long distance for these guys to have to cover. But of course, improves on the lead that James has up front. And, they will have to go through a few more pit stops. So, I think James may well have just been settling into a rhythm. Yeah, like you say, those two lap times previously were not fabulous.
Sorry, James May.
James May.
I didn't, did I? Oh,
you
goodness
did.
me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, cock.
At the forefront
James
of cocking
Clay.
about. James Clay. I don't even remember saying a surname. That's even worse. Goodness me.
Next you'll be pronounced as James Cray. I don't know if that's a reference.
No, not when I reckon it.
Yeah, no. But
Dear oh dear.
there we go.
So Liam Rance takes over the DDoS Racing 75 again. It's a lap down from the lead, but anything can change as the lead progresses. Ziuba is back in front of Tatuhei. They swap position for a while, but they are about half a lap difference now. Who is on the same lap as one another? Let's have a look. Rhodes and Roger are, but they're not sharing the same bit of track. Who else can we see? Most of the people are spread out quite a lot. Oh dear, I was looking at JP Paul there, and that was Vincent Evers that was doing a bit of lawn mowing just behind them, so that car's still very much a handful. The now Infinity Racing 36 in 10th is still proving quite tricky to manhandle, it would seem.
Yeah, again, I think from what I'm noticing, the shadow's starting to get longer again. We've gone past that midpoint in the day, so it's slowly going to start now for the sun to get lower, for it to get darker, and most importantly for it to get colder.
Yeah.
Which means we might see again drivers becoming more unaccustomed to the grip levels and some more mistakes coming back into it, just as we saw in the first few hours of the race.
The track temperature is static.
It is, but
So
we won't see them more grippy as the race has gone on, as the air temperature's increased.
Also, I'm
I don't know.
Ryan
Liam
Nash
was
and
really
Don.
out of shape.
Eh?
Liam was really out of shape. He completely cut corners just a minute ago.
Oh dear.
Off track everywhere.
Don Napper and Ryan Nash in 20th are fairly close, so there might be a battle forming there going towards the tail end of the GTEs. They're just coming through Tower. The Porsche's just done so, and the BMW are around about 5 seconds or so behind. It was around here that I was again referring back to Liam's. No, sorry, not Liam. Was Martin's sort of few questionable moves. It was through this twisty bit that he was really pushing that a little bit too hard and trying to jump into a gap that was only ever going to disappear. Potential battle forming there, but otherwise everyone just running their race and hitting their marks. Coming back to James though, one thing I have noticed, and just as I was looking at him, he's taking it fairly well this time, but there's a few occasions where he's taken that turn 16 a little bit too tight, so it looks like he's kind of cut the corner, and I think you were referencing Liam doing the same thing a lap ago, so he's going to have to be careful on that one.
Absolutely. You don't want to be making mistakes now, especially when you're for Liam, in Liam's case, are now a lap off the lead. I know he has just got in the car. They've done a pit stop. I'm assuming it's a pit stop more. I feel like in my mind, at least, the way I'm working out, James Clay owes a pit stop. That car, the number 9 Tepper team.
Yeah, but Tino brought that in under a code 80 though, so they would have gained comparatively quite well there.
Gained comparatively, but it's not a full lap, though,
No.
is it?
No.
When they do the pit stop, we should see around about a 1 minute, 1 minute gap still there. So as I say, like Liam can't afford to make any mistakes.
Someone spun. That is Vincent Evers facing the wrong way in the pit lane entry.
That is that. I don't. Is that the last place LMP2 car?
Yes.
I don't know.
It is.
I feel like
it is. Yes.
Yeah.
And that just goes from bad to worse.
Also, I just want to mention that another commentator who has been at the beginning of the stream is back. Welcome back, Jess.
Hello, welcome back.
Hello, Jess.
I'll be commentating until 11 o'clock this evening. Seems like a lot of things happened already. I've just seen Vincent in the gravel.
Yep, a lot of things has definitely happened while we were away.
Yeah, 1 or 2 things going on. It's James Clay. I can't believe I had to actually drum that into my head to stop myself saying May again.
Unfortunately, we don't have Captain Slow in the race with us. It would be far more entertaining.
Especially if he was leading.
Yeah, that would be quite the surprise.
Wow, he really throws that car into turn 1.
Jess, I think you already know earlier about the running out of fuel in the middle of the track and Rhodes having to push him all the way to the pit lane.
Yes, I did hear about this. We were laughing. We were kind of laughing in the stewards' channel earlier.
Yeah.
So, kind of like a replica of what happened in Spa, to be honest.
In Spa, yeah.
Yeah. And then we heard that you were laughing as well with Josh. So, oh my god.
Oh, that was classic.
He seems to be back. They seem to be back to their old self and still in the lead.
Yep. Tino works magic again. Making sure that play does.
I think admittedly a large part of the game, as Chris reminded us, was the fact that Tino pitted under code 80, took full advantage on the strategy, and gained a significant portion over the number 75 car, the DDoS Racing. So they're in the perfect position to capitalise on their mistakes and take a win potentially here at the first race. And even if they don't, we have to remember that a penalty is going to be levied against that 75 car for exceeding the driver stint limit at some point.
It must have been about 4 hours or something, over 4 hours.
It was 4.5.
Yeah, it was 4.5, and yeah, there was a lot of questions on what we should do for that, but had a lot of discussion, I've got to say.
Was a final decision reached, or are you not allowed to say?
A final decision wasn't reached. I believe it's going to be discussed after the race.
Yeah.
So, as to whether it's going to be a time penalty, a point penalty, a disqualification, we don't know. What we do know, or what I've been told, is that it's not going to be left at nothing.
Yeah, that's the case at the moment.
Okay.
So that's unfortunately all we know, but that does mean that the extra pressure is on for Liam Rance to push hard and do everything he can, as well as whichever driver presumably takes over after him, to completely maximise the result from this race, so that when the penalty is applied, it is of the least convenience to them.
Absolutely. Driver change that's happened in that time. Jay Paul has handed the Haven Racing 177 Porsche, currently in 18th, over to Michael Main. His stint has come to an end. Gabor Fodor in the pits as well, in the Racing Spirit Treble 2 car, currently lying in 16th position. He's been in there a while. That's and continues on his way then. And so we did see him have that connection problem earlier. It remains in 16th. Richard Taylor is actually just coming around. They're on the same lap, and they're actually going to be fairly close when Fodor comes out of the pits. Actually, Fodor is out of the pits, and that's around about, I'd say, about 15 seconds or so between the Porsche and the Corvette. So if Gable Fodor makes a mistake, he could well be joined by that growling, flame-spitting Corvette in 7th overall, car 24. So we'll see if that happens as the race progresses. Oh wow, a lot of people having a lot of traffic to deal with. So just
yes, I've just been warned, by the way, as well, or informed that all GT cars have been now warned once again collectively to be more predictable for LMP cars going through traffic. Apparently there have been a number of very close calls. So
I remember when Peter Scholz first came to the race, and he was right up next by Clausen, I think, really aggressively going past. I'm just thinking, maybe, yeah. Okay.
I mean, it is definitely a big thing in endurance racing. The GTE is the slower class car, so not just GTE themselves, as Muller hands over the Golf racing car in 22nd over to Matthias Mackenzie.
Rance just had a very close call there. Roger ahead of him spinning, and that putting Rance off so much that Rance himself spun it.
Oh no! Was there any damage to the DDoS car?
No, it was like a half spin. He didn't. He was still on track. Didn't leave the track. It was just off-putting. I was working on board with it at the time, so we got a good view of the cockpit and what he was doing.
But that woke him up.
Another change for the Golf Porsche. Mackenzie is in, I can't see who it is.
It was Matthias Mackenzie from Christoph Muller.
Yeah.
That. Yeah, we're not good at pronouncing names, me included, to be honest. I kept saying loads of names wrong earlier.
I can't guarantee I've got most of these right, so we do our best. We do our best as English commentators. But yeah, coming back to the point of the GTE cars, it's a very big thing. They need to stick to their line. It's not advisable for them to jump out of the way, and it's been proven several times in this race where if they try and jump out of the way, even if their intentions are to let the quicker cars go, they may jump to an inside line just as the quicker car commits to that very same line, and that's exactly why the GTEs just need to stick to their line and essentially mind their own business and let the quicker car that usually has the downforce to deal with it. So whether it's GTE to LMP2 or LMP2 to LMP1, same deal. The quicker class, by and large, has the grip to make an outside manoeuvre, to make their line very obvious, and for them to then commit to it safely without the risk of the GTE car accidentally jumping into that same line as well.
Yes, but we do also have to remember that the GT cars, obviously, especially if they're new to GT racing, they have to they've got to learn how to deal with it. It can be quite intimidating the first few times, quite scary particularly when a significantly faster car approaches you, and there's a group of them. You don't want to be the one to interrupt their battles or cause an accident, and so they can sometimes be quite jittery. So they do, again, it's the same as with getting into rhythm with lap times and consistency. They have to do the same with letting cars through, finding the best places to do so, and trusting in the LMP and learning to trust in the LMPs to do it in the right place. And in fact, we've got an interview with someone who can talk more about this, but only after I'm told that we have to plug the sponsorship quickly. So if Josh could bring up the special sponsorship graphic for me.
It's up.
And Ron can do the honours as always.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Okay. Here we go. This race is brought to you by Cellular Computers. They are a Nottingham-based business which sells R-Factor 2 dedicated service. They'll start from £7.99 a month. Our powerful Intel Xeon-based R-Factor 2 dedicated gaming server will have you covered whether you are an R-Factor 2 sim racing league or a sim racing team. We are confident that we will supply a server that is both reliable and above all cost effective. Our R-Factor 2 servers are fully customizable to whatever settings you desire, providing a worry-free racing experience. Visit Cellular Computers from the link in the description below.
Fantastic. So, as we were talking about with GT cars, letting them through, I believe we have Mr. JP Paul from the number 177 GTE car waiting for us. So, if I'm going to try and get him in here now,
Meanwhile,
and then we can ask him some questions.
Meanwhile, Juba is in the... I think...
Yep, he didn't
may be
pits.
I think he may be having a driver change, I'm not too sure.
There we go.
James just left the pits as well.
Mr. JP Paul, how are you doing, sir?
How's it, guys? Yeah, very good, thanks. Yourselves?
We're doing good.
Pretty fantastic. How was your stint in the car? You look like you were going pretty damn strong.
Yeah, no, it's a great stint. I think consistent 201s for the 30 laps. I was really happy with that. The car's running absolute dream. We've got Mike in there now, and I think we're really pleased actually, because I think we've got a good shot at 16th, because we've managed to kind of unlap ourselves quite a bit, and we're on the same lap as the guys in 16th and 17th. So pretty happy at the moment to say for our first endurance race.
Lovely. Is it your first endurance race like ever, or is it your first
Ever.
endurance race as a team?
Ever. So,
Wow.
so we're a bunch of guys from South Africa. I'm British but live in South Africa as well. And we actually race in a local South African league. I don't know if I can plug it or not.
No one committed to that.
Local South African league for now, just in case we get in trouble.
Okay.
Yeah, just in case you get in trouble, you know.
Yeah, no, so we're in a local South African league. Actually, the founder of the league races in the VEC for RSA Pro Tier team. So
Nice.
we kind of decided, oh, come on, let's get together and try and do some endurance stuff. So yeah, first race for us, and we're loving it. We unfortunately lost the driver just before the start of the race, but we've managed to cope, which is great.
Now retrace your steps. Where did you put him?
Yeah.
Great effort. I mean,
Sorry.
no. After you, go on.
I was just going to say, no, we unfortunately just lost him. He had to reformat his PC, I think, on Thursday night, and he just hasn't been able to get it back up and running. So, but hopefully he'll be back for Interlagos.
So that's been your first endurance race ever. We've seen you coping in it really well. Do you think you can improve on this performance in some way?
I hope so. You know, we literally had a week to practice. We signed up for this last Friday. So we have been tirelessly putting in the hours over the last week. I think last Friday I ran about 10 hours on my own, and I think the other guys, Mike and Marius did as well. So yeah, no, it's been completely new to us. You know, we've never played R Factor before either, so we're promising.
Jesus, could you have made this any more difficult for yourself? Have you turned your monitors off and doing this blind now? My God!
Are we really interviewing like the British Bono Huis here?
Yeah, literally.
Confirmed.
That is insane. That is literally insane. So if you're watching this and are thinking about endurance racing and don't have much experience, go for it. These guys have proven that they can do it, so you can do it as well.
This is amazing. Seriously, was it 10 hours like straight? I hope it's not 10 hours straight.
Yeah, it was. I literally got home from.
No. That is insane. Insane.
Right. Are you? No, seriously, take this lightly. Are you an alien?
No, well, I wouldn't count myself as an alien. Definitely, I wouldn't count anyone as an alien.
Christ almighty.
Good Lord.
We struggle against all of the guys in South Africa. So, you know, we run, I think there's 3 divisions. We typically run in Division 2. So there's a lot of aliens in SA. I wouldn't classify us as aliens, but you never know. We might become endurance aliens after this.
Yeah. How did you cope with doing RFAPs for the first time, especially that you only had a certain amount of time to get used to the track and the game and actual endurance racing itself?
Very difficult, hey. It's a completely different kettle of fish between the 2 different games. You know, AC we don't find as realistic as this. You know, there's a lot more going on in R Factor. I think we all run VR as well, so it was difficult to get used to from that fact, because there was a lot of, you know, changing and making sure settings in the view were right, and and then making sure the HUDs were up and running as well. So we've all had struggles with that, but we've managed to kind of slap it together last minute. But it is completely different. It's I think our factor is a lot more intense, but it's a lot more enjoyable. I've literally sat in that car for that last stint now, and just gone lap after lap, and really enjoyed it much more than I enjoy Assetto Corsa actually.
Did you do 10 hours straight in VR?
Yes.
How did you not melt into just a puddle of sweat?
I was going to say that, like, surely one of the main things that I hear, and one of the main things to put me off getting VR is the fact that it gets very warm on your head quite quickly, especially with endurance racing. How do you cope with that?
I'll top that and say it's about 30 degrees here at the moment.
I was going to say, South Africa's a damn hot place. Damn.
How much pressure do you put on yourself? Oh my god.
It's all right. If you've got aircon on or something like that, you're fine. It's not an issue.
He says so casually. Goodness me.
It's pretty ridiculous.
No, I've always wondered why. We all started Assetto Corsa about 4 or 5 months ago. So getting used to the VR was a lot of people say it takes a couple of hours, but you just have to put in the time and spit it, it'll be fine.
I have another question. We were talking briefly earlier before you joined us about the difficulties that GTs and LMPs face racing on the same track, overtaking each other and such. Have you felt nervous about racing around the LMPs? Have you had much practice with that before this race?
The only way that we've done it is just through AI. It's not been the easiest thing, but I don't know, we just got used to it over time. I think, today's race, I haven't had too many issues myself. I think Marius had a couple of issues with a couple of LMPs at the front. But I think as long as you've got your mirrors set up right, especially in VR, you really need them, you're fine. But it's down to practice. I don't think we probably could have done more practice on that side, but it's not been an issue from my perspective so far.
Well, I don't know if it would be an issue for you right now because, after you just told us, I don't think it's going to be an issue. Unless I'm very much mistaken.
I'm sounding a little bit arrogant now, aren't I? It's because I've had 3 monsters. Sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
So you're overdue to just conk out into a mass on the floor.
It's coming up to it's 20 past 11 now, so it's getting late.
Wow.
Yeah, and we've still got a few hours of racing to go.
Yep, a couple more stints. We should be good. Looking forward to it.
Are you back in the car again?
Yeah, I've got another stint. Mike's gonna run a double now, and then we'll just decide whether it's Marius or I run next, and that'll be it. So we've actually done it we've stinted it, so now basically a stint each. So we've done the driver swap each time. We've come into the pits just for safety, because we were under the impression we could crash out quite early, and we just want to make sure everyone gets a drive. And it's worked out quite well.
Well, hats off to you, because you've done brilliantly well for your first outing. Yes. Under those conditions. Impressive. Yeah, that's absolutely. Even if you crashed out now, you have every reason to be very pleased with how you've done. And if that's an indicator for the rest of the season, then that's absolutely brilliant. Well done.
Fingers crossed. Thanks very much, guys.
Don't jinx it now, Chris.
Sorry.
Don't jinx it now, ever. Don't.
That's commentator cares.
Well, good luck with the rest of your race. And,
thanks very much.
Take care, and we look forward to seeing you throughout the rest of the series.
Look forward to it too. Cheers, guys.
Okay, thank you very much for coming along.
See you later. And we've got a lineup of interviews now. We're on to the next.
Nice.
The next one. Next, I believe we've got Mr. Hayden Rhodes through. Obviously, having driven in the LMP2 class, not necessarily towards the front of it for very long, but still very strong driving performance and
a helping hand.
Very consistent. Hello, Hayden. How are you?
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going good. That was a stint.
So to start off the interview, we want to say first of all, the helping hand.
Yeah.
Yes. You do when we come here. Yeah, we were about to say that, don't we?
Yeah, it would be neglectful of us not to bring this up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sportsmanship.
Absolutely.
So, was it true that he actually ran out of fuel, or was it something else?
Well, yeah, someone, well, we're still speaking in our own Discord, and someone had joined the Discord and he got preoccupied speaking to them and forgot to pair, basically.
Oh no!
Ouch.
Reactions.
No,
Yeah.
so it's basically someone else's fault then. That's what you say.
We're blaming it on him for now, yeah.
Oh, mate. So overall, you had a good performance. Do you think you can prove it on like this?
Yeah, maybe. I think when James gets in the car at the end, it's probably going to be our best stint, because he seems to be the fastest.
Best because you're mostly active with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm milking this now. I'm milking this. Let's carry on.
So, other than helping your sister car round, what would be your personal highlight from this race? What are you looking to take from this race and use to propel yourself further up the field for the future?
Well, we've learned a lot this race, because this is of course the first endurance race we did Air Isle and 1 last year, but that wasn't really, it wasn't anything like this, but yeah, well, our target this race, we still think it's possible for us to get maybe a P6 or even P5 if we have a really good stint, but yeah, we've got quite unlucky this race with like full course yellows and stuff not working with us, and we kept having like making silly mistakes, but in next race we think we can do a lot better, maybe get closer to a podium, less mistakes.
Fantastic. So, out of interest, we're looking at the timing sheets and we're seeing, obviously, the sister car topping them, challenging for the lead of the race and potentially challenging for the championship. Is that where you see yourself and your team by the end of the season? Do you see yourselves up there?
Well, of course, Tino is a really good driver, but we'd like to be battling for at least second in the championship. Really, we think we have the pace. It's just extracting it. Yeah, but I don't think realistically at any point this season we're really going to be able to match Tino's pace. Bearing in mind he came into this race with pretty much no practice and he's like a lot quicker than us. It's probably not realistic to think that we'll be on pace with him, but I think we could be quite a lot better by the end of the season with more experience and endurance racing. That's it.
Interesting.
Besides the sister team, then, who are you keeping your eye on as, who do you feel you're realistically in a fight with?
I can't remember the number of the car, but the car with Liam Ranson in
the number 75.
75 DDoS.
The green one.
Number 75.
Green one.
Well, that's a pretty high benchmark. I mean, they've been running second all race long, or near enough all race long. So that's a decent target to aim for.
Yeah, well, of course, there are other drivers pretty much as good as Tino. So, but we're similar pace to Liam, most of the team. If we can keep that up, maybe we've got a chance to second in future. But I think that's a realistic aim for us. If not, probably third. We could settle for quite nicely.
Fantastic stuff. We've heard that there have been some issues that some LMP cars have been having with GT traffic, some near misses here and there. And you mentioned yourself you've had some issues with traffic and stuff. How much do you think has that hurt you overall? And are there any instances in particular that you look to and think that really hasn't gone in our favour?
I mean, the general lapping's been fine, There's been a couple of near misses, but of course, like our performance is so much better. The car performance, you can understand sometimes that they don't see us or something, but especially having driven GTs in the past and longer races, I know like how easy it is just to not see someone. But yeah, it's not really. The only issue I've had is through the last corner 2 or 3 times I've had people reversing onto the racing line and stuff, but that's the only issue I've really had with lap cars.
So you don't have a problem with Tower Corner then?
No, not that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure, to be honest. Like, I haven't had an issue, but others might have.
Interesting. Well, it seems like you guys are going very, very strong, and we wish you the best of luck for the rest of the race.
Yeah. Okay. See ya.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us, Hayden.
Thank you.
I think towards the end of that interview, we just saw Vincent Avers spun.
Again, he's really struggling.
Yeah, that is, again, bad to worse for that last place LMP2 car. Now 22 laps off the lead. 4 laps down from Novad, who's just pitted as well. The lead GTE M8 has just handed over to Gregor's Boulat. So that changes has happened. Cameron Roger is in as well for the True Esports Car 2. Is he going to hand back over to Raoul Hubin? We will see. Oops! And already Boulat's been forced off the road by that's Ewan Bishop. And I know how much you guys want to get on with commentating on the race, and there is now some stuff going on, but unfortunately we have another interview to do with Robert Statchen, who I don't know if you've commentated on him before, Chris.
It's
I
not
don't even know
not a name I recognise, I'm afraid.
Strachan.
Yes, he's. I've been told he has the nickname Robert is hated a lot, Statchen.
Wow.
Which I'm not sure about, because obviously this is my first time with these drivers, but I didn't know if any of the others knew why this was, or whether it would have any impact on how the performance of this race has gone. But yeah, let's get him in here and see what he has to say about the race.
All right.
East or whatever. Oh.
Hello.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey Robert.
You alright?
Yeah, I'm doing alright. Yourselves?
Doing good.
Fantastic. How's the race been going from your perspective?
I mean, it's been going okay. We've started out, with a pretty pish quali, but couldn't really do much about that. All of our laps got invalidated. I think our quickest was like a 2 minutes .4 or whatever. Put that into perspective, I did a 58.9 or something on race pace.
Wow, was that from track limits going into sunset, do you know?
Yeah. We asked for confirmation about it and we didn't get anything until it was too late. So, I mean, it's
I
a
think
bit
that
of
was
a
an
shame.
issue for a number of cars, but...
Yeah, I think it was just sort of lack of communication between some parties, which, I mean, can't get too mad about. Such is life. Just take it on the chin and get back to racing.
Take it on the chin, that's what we do.
Yes, well, so, forgive me for asking, where are you currently sitting in this race?
We're the 73 Rookie Monsters car, which, by the way, has an absolutely glorious skin that you guys don't seem to want to show. It makes me sad.
Well, it's not our choice necessarily, it's Josh.
Yeah, I know.
Josh is the one you want to be taking that up with, but I do agree, most of the skins in this series are looking pretty damn fine.
I think the primer door and the for sale sign really sort of make everything slightly better.
Who's driving at the moment?
Malcolm Smith in 15th is running that one.
Yes,
there
it is, that's the
5th in class.
Fourth in class or 5th? Because I think Vincent Evers is a P2, so
that's
this one's P11.
Yeah, 5th, so really strong showing.
You're 5th, which is an incredibly strong showing. And some of the people we've been talking to are very new to endurance racing. What's your team's experience with sim racing so far, and how does that help you in this race?
Basically, the two guys that are doing the last chunk of the race are completely new. I think one of them has had absolutely zero R Factor experience until now.
Wow.
And the one the one that's in the car just now, Malcolm, I believe, has done a little bit, but not a huge amount. I've not done that much either. I only really started in like March or something, and you know, I've only really done like maybe 3 endurance events or whatever. I mean, the tally should go up a bit now that I'm in D4.
So as you're alluding to there, you're the driver that has, or one of the drivers that has more experience in the team. Are you looked at as essentially a leader, or some kind of guidance, or is more pressure put on your shoulders to guide your less experienced drivers?
No, not at all. Sorry, I've got like 3 conversations going on at the same time. I'm doing like team conversations in Discord.
3 interviews at once. That's impressive.
Yeah, basically.
Are you trying to like do not disturb or something on doing talks? Because you know,
I just deafened myself. It's better.
Fair enough. Right.
What I was leading on to was I don't have. You know, I've only been doing this a couple of months, but you know, it's been a definite trial by fire. And I mean, we're really using M1 to sort of nurture our newer drivers. You know, get them used to what is essentially a busy track. You know, and I mean, I'm gonna be honest, some of the driving standards you see are a bit questionable at times, but I mean, that's the same in any league, really, so. But yeah, basically, I don't have that much experience. I believe Taylor probably has the most experience out of all of us. He's been sim racing in one form or another for many years now. I think basically the only reason he's only done 2 stints is because he's doing a DGFX, or he's doing an iRacing event with his team DGFX.
Alongside this one?
Yeah, he's
Christ
here,
alive.
and then he's gone off and done 2 hours in the Audi IR18 or whatever.
Bloomin' hell!
And so there was talk of him coming back and doing some more, but I think he's done for the day.
So hang on. He's been here running a GT car, and then he's gone to iRacing and run an LMP1 car.
Yes.
And there's talk of him coming back to more GT car racing.
I think it's confirmed that he's not. I think he's probably gone to bed. I mean, his schedule today basically went. He did all the practice sessions and everything, all the warm up for our car. Did the first stint. I did the next 2. He did the 4th stint, and then went off. Did 2 hours in the Audi. Has then got a night shift work at like 9 o'clock or something.
Oh my god.
It's crazy.
No,
So he's raced all that and then gone to work.
Oh
Yeah.
god.
I don't know how he does it. I'm getting copious amounts of caffeine.
I was going to say that's a serious amount of energy drinks going on there. It has to be.
I'm fairly sure his heart's possibly going to explode.
I mean, it's that or hardcore drugs that keep him going.
Intravenously.
Cocaine?
Don't you
He
try
probably
it.
can't actually
Don't you
afford
try
that.
it.
Get in the bin.
Wow.
I know.
Don't worry, I'm
right.
used to hearing that about 6 times a day. When your 3 brothers does that to you. Wait. But no, sorry, references.
Okay.
But so you, as a team, you haven't got the biggest amount of experience on the grid, but you're not exactly total newbies. What are you looking to take from this race and apply to the rest of the series?
Well, a lot of what we do here is we're sort of learning up our newer drivers, you know, as opposed to dumping them in. I mean, there's not really that many leagues that do long endurance racing. You know, not at an entry level. You know, that's why leagues like this get so popular. You know, because people don't want to have to go away and spend money for SRC and stuff like that. So, you know, this is a really good platform for those wanting to get into endurance racing, and we treat it as such. You know, we don't I mean, we haven't put in much practice for this event, you know, because a lot of it is we're teaching the other guys what they're doing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Totally.
You know, I think I've done maybe 60 laps of Sebring and 60 laps in the Porsche while building a setup simultaneously, so...
How hard was that?
It's really weird because, you know, I do VC with the P2 and stuff. So, you know, being the difference between a prototype and a GT is massive. What probably helped me is that I haven't actually driven Sebring before this race.
Wow.
So, coming in completely blank as opposed to having, you know, okay, this is what I should do with the P2, why can't I do this with the GT sort of thing.
Yeah, not having to unlearn anything.
Yeah, some people can really quickly swap between it, but I can't. I take a while. So, having the clean slate, I mean, we had a few baseline setups that have come from, you know, VC races, other races that we've used the Studio 397 cars, so we took that as a base. God, what track was it? It was something like Nola, I think. It's what the setup originally came out of, so it's not taking too much work. Also, somebody tell Ross Woodford that he smells. Thanks.
Oi!
Can't get that out there, did you?
Is this why you're
he
shot
added me
today?
on he just added me on Discord. I can't help it. By just, I mean, he did it like 8 minutes ago.
Is this 8 minutes ago? Are you still mad at that?
I just caught it just now. I've been too busy trying to figure out how to exist.
Is this fire your shots day or something?
Nah, just a Ross.
Every day is firing shots day.
No.
Bad. No, thank you guys for having me. Is there anything else you'd like to know, or are you guys good?
No. I think we're pretty good.
Get out!
We're good.
Don't worry, you're already in so many conversations. I think it's best if we let you go.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Can I
Get back to the race.
Can I get chucked back into my channel, Josh? Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sound perfect. Thank you for
Cheers, no
answering our
worries.
questions.
Thank you for having me, and thank
good
you
luck
for
with the
being...
rest of the race.
Good luck with the rest of the
Goddamn
race.
Go away.
And-
Cheers.
Wait. What?
Was that how he ended up with his nickname, I wonder?
I think it
Quite
may have
possible.
been. I think it may have been.
His parting
I
shot
mean-
at every opportunity.
I may be cocky, but that, ladies and gentlemen, we've peaked.
Do we have any more interviews? Or is that it for now?
No,
This is
no
a
one
very
else
good
wants
question.
to talk with us.
No.
There you go. Not at the moment, at least.
No, so we can actually concentrate on commentating on some racing.
Hooray! Back to the racing.
Oh, we have an LMP that just went in the grass again. I think it was one of the blue ones. I think it was.
Hooper.
Archibald Putin nearly just burned as well. In turn one.
It was Tom Hooper that.
Yes,
the one you spotted.
Tom Hooper, I've just seen rejoining the circuit, so that would confirm Jesse's theory. He'd been for a trip with the gravel. I think that was up at turn 3.
Yep, that was.
Because I saw Arjen van Putten coming in the background. One thing I've noticed is that Liam Rance has pitted once again, so the gap is back up to a lap.
Yep.
It was holding steady at about 1 minute 10, 1 minute 20 in that sort of region pre-pit stop, so I would assume it would go back there once the number 9 car stops again. Whether they have another driver change yet to come, we still have no idea.
Indeed. There were a few pit stops going on, but not too many driver changes. Angus Tong in the 3rd place. I've forgotten which car it is.
Let me just have a look.
That is the Blanks Racing prototype.
Oh yes, car number 8.
Car number 8.
Oh, Liam wants to just put it in the wall a little bit there, grazing it off the final corner.
Oh
That
dear.
was, him being held at that Blanks Racing car being held up by a GT significantly there. A big flash of the lights
Yeah.
Quite an angry gesture.
Number
So
8.
but he's running in 3rd position, so can't be too unhappy with the way things are going at the moment. He's got a lap either end, so he's not that far off Liam Rance, and he's got a nice cushion to Joseph Fagg, so he's in a comfortable position on the podium at the moment.
Yeah, Joseph Fagg taking over car 23 from Tatu Hay, the 360 Motorsports, currently in 4th.
So Christian Lewis is in the race, but he's just not in the team I was told he was going to be in.
Yeah, there he is, towards the tail end of the field.
He's in the DDoS. Is he in the DDoS
Yes,
GTE
he's
car?
in the
Yeah.
DDoS
79.
GTE, the Porsche, the yellow and black Porsche with the memes on the back.
Indeed.
No, 58, not
78, yeah.
The laughing forum guy.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. Exquisite impression.
I'm so sorry if I offended anyone who's from my home.
Yeah, we're very
what
sorry
I've,
in advance.
what I've spotted, guys, is Lance Link has maybe 5 to 10 seconds behind Alex Schmidt, or sorry, Lance Link behind Liam Davis.
Yeah,
on
they're not
track
that
for
far at
position.
all.
Oh,
5 to 10 seconds
Smith!
apart.
Jeffrey Smith was driving backwards at turn 1. Straight
that's
into
not
oncoming
the
traffic.
track
That's-
And there's
Turn.
an LMP off as well, isn't there?
That's not the quickest way of doing that.
Ovad.
Yeah.
Oh, Ovad again.
Yeah, he was just off turn 1 as well, so I wonder if there was maybe an incident between the two of them.
Martin Ovad's been in that car for hours now.
Yeah.
Yes, actually, I haven't seen someone else take control of the car in recent times. I think he's been in there for a good 2 or 3 hours.
He must have. I mean, I'm sure he was in it when I jumped on. That's approaching 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's
I will check the driver change channel for you, and I will investigate that.
There you
yeah.
go.
'Cause he's been in there a long
He
time.
did change a couple of times with Pankatite.
Oh, Lewis had contact with, I believe, Bullet, and they were both off track in the same place. One spun around, the other really far off. So, and Christian Lewis gone off again.
Oh no.
By the way,
Oh, and he's
I
followed
don't
by
know
Evans.
if I don't know if it was acknowledged, but a good 20 laps ago we lost Peter Schultz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
LMP2 car, which I think
Pepe's
has now been
gone.
officially confirmed as a retirement.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
for, I'm not entirely sure, but that's a shame. That car was running quite well.
Pepe's gone.
We thought it was going to come back earlier, but it didn't.
Well, there we go.
I couldn't see where he went, what time he actually went in the car, but I don't think it says in the driver changes at all.
Oh, for Ovad.
Well,
No.
Oh dear.
that is quite worrying because it's against the rules to not declare your driver changes. So unless they've not been declaring driver changes, it's a potential that they're coming up on, if not over, their driver stint limits. That might be worth checking into further.
And that's even
In case
and that's
any of the
worse
stewards
news.
are listening.
And that's worse.
Oh, spin at spin at the last turn. One of the GTEs is facing the wrong way.
Oh, it's Jeffrey Smith again.
Jeffrey Smith. Go.
He is known for Mr. Wrong Wayman.
Oh
He's
no.
just been spinning this whole race, hasn't he? He's pretty much spun out of the race at this point.
retire.
Another.
With words of advice right here.
But Liam Rance was literally right behind him, just to the point as the tail of that Porsche let go. So
Yes,
Liam was
I-
well dodged there.
That wouldn't be the
saw
first
Liam
time he's been in that
exit the
situation.
corner at high speed, presumably having just missed him. Another thing, talking about driver stints, I haven't seen anyone take over from Jeffrey Smith all race as far as I can remember.
Because he wants to. Never mind.
What?
Yeah,
Who is he supposed to be racing alongside?
He is. Car number.
Car number
Six-
12.
Car number 12. Let me just get the spotter guide for you.
Delecki. He has
Delecki,
been in.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Telecki
he
has been there.
in. Yeah.
Not too long ago as well, if my memory serves me correct.
Ewan Bishop from 19th gets back underway. That car has had that's the No Infinity Racing 3666. That's had a few. That's been involved in a few near misses as well at certain points. I was mentioning earlier that.
Near misses polite way to put it.
Yes.
The democratic word, yeah.
Yes.
When you said Jeffrey Smith's been in the car for ages, he's actually just switched now to Selecti. So,
He's finally had enough.
And
There
I
you
did
go.
find, and I did find when they did change Martin Obad, they did actually do a driver swap. 20 past 7, so about a couple of hours ago.
Okay.
Yes, that's 2 hours 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, so they're fine at the moment.
Right. Well, that is. I mean, it still might be questionable for full race
Oh,
time.
Christian Lewis off again.
Oh dear.
The meme man himself.
Nice one. Hold on, wait. I got a plan. Try belt.
Liam Davis is backwards.
Try a belt after I say number 8.
Who was backward? Sorry.
Liam Davis
Liam
from
Davis.
14th.
Well, Angus Tong, sorry, has just slid Sunset Bend like Colin McRae.
Oh,
He's
Christ.
so
You had to put that
sideways.
reference there.
So sideways, it's like Tokyo Drift.
He's in the right
Um,
colour car for McRae as well. And he's-
What's Deja
Yes.
Vu playing?
Unfortunately, it's an LMP2 car, not a rally car. So,
not his classic Subaru.
Davis
unfortunately.
actually lost a position in
Was
this
he
spin.
playing, like I said, was he playing Deja Vu?
I
I'm
doubt
sure
it.
it
I
was.
don't think so. I think he's playing R Factor 2.
No. Oh, never mind.
I know what you were on about. I'm just taking the piss.
I can tell.
I'm not playing your game, sir.
We're having some
Y'all
banter
know.
in the commentary box, as you can tell.
I don't want to be picky, but a 316 isn't actually Ewan.
It's
There's Isaac Barclay. Win Bishop. They just run same ring.
Ah.
And now he's going rallying because
Yeah, he's-
he's not dirt rally in a long time and he really needs it.
like Rally Cross.
He fancied a change.
Yes.
I
Be
see.
picky about my guys.
Sorry about that.
Well, I mean, that's good to clarify that, because, of course, unless it's known somewhere, it could be deemed that this driver has gone on for too long, whereas actually the driver change has enacted as per requirement.
As
Well, he's only then finished by a single stint by the equity group Win Bishop. The race finished by Isaac again.
Oh, who's that behind us? Davies. That's right behind him. A little close.
Being the team manager of car really gives you perspective and insight.
Good to know. Good to know. Oh, Cameron Roger had to jump out of the way of the back of Davies there. They came through the twisty section. We've probably had quite a few, as we are fast approaching the 300 lap mark. I'm sure he's had quite a bit of practice of doing that.
Indeed, we're also, I believe, approaching 5. Not 5 hours. 3 hours.
3 hours to go.
20 to go. So
Mhm.
we've got 3 hours 20 on the clock. That is just over a quarter distance left to run. Most of the cars spread out now. Obviously, incidents can still befall people at the front. It's currently looking like it is going to be the number 9 car driven by James Clay, heading for the win, followed by Liam Rance in the number 75, and then Angus Tong in the number 8 Harry Blanks Prototype Racing. The lead in GTE currently held by Gregor Bulat. I forget which number car that is, but it's been an impressive drive by those guys. It is
657.
657.
yes, that's the one.
657.
I don't know the rest of it, but
No,
it is-
because I just made that one.
I guessed the reference you were going for. But yeah, it's been a stunning drive by those guys. I don't think they've let the lead of the class slip from them. like since they took it, other than a brief battle with the pink Tepatine car. I think they've held on to it.
Yeah, it was Ross Woodford.
Very strongly.
But
Vamos
Ants
car.
in the car.
Ah, tell you who has had a driver change. Mr. Evers has finally handed the car 36 No Infinity Racing LMP2 from 10th to Alwyn Reed, and race leader James K. Now I'm mixing. We've gone from May to K now. Clay. It's not exactly a difficult name to get right either.
No,
James-
it's not like some of the more complicated names we've had today.
Yeah, I'll get other people's names right and one of the most basic ones wrong. That sounds about right for me. So, James Clay, car number 9 in the pits, and I shouldn't imagine that one's just going to come back over to Tino just yet. Liam Ramsden unlaps himself in the DDoS number 75. Carries on his merry way. Oh, that was a very short stop for James. So he gets back underway. I'd be surprised if that gap comes down to, we're talking about 120, I think, before James's last pit stop.
Yeah, it was a 46-second stop. Angus Tong actually having a 34-second stop, so even less time.
Wow, that was quick.
Might be
It
just
was.
for fuel tyres. It might be just run off.
More than likely. Out he comes then. Wait for the time to update. Oh, and straight out behind Zalecki for James Clay, but manages to, a little bit deep. Coming through turn 3. Let's get back into the rhythm. I'm just curious to see what the timing is between the two, but that's
30-second stop go penalty for car number 78 for
Oh,
causing a
it's Lewis.
collision.
Christian
Car
Lewis.
number 336 and for also brake checking car number 8.
Oh, a
Oh,
double whammy.
That confirms that he did indeed crash. Nice Harry Potter reference. I like that.
Oh, Neil.
Oh, Neil.
There you go. All the different references are coming out today.
why not? Bring them all in.
Well, there we go. But that just takes him from 1 before last. He won't lose any more positions. He's got 3 laps over Jamie Zalecki, but that is a bit of a sucker punch to that car to add insult to injury. The mean car slipping further backwards.
132 then is the updated gap between first and second, so in between the last 2 stops for them. That's another 17 or so. Oh, and that's one of the LMPs well off into the dust. There's Tong. Yes, I said
That's
Fong
Tong.
then. But
He's out of 3rd position.
4th place man.
So
He's
whether he's just pitted and rejoined in a manner that's caused an accident, or whether he's just been overtaken.
No, I can
What
confirm.
happened.
I can confirm it's because of the pit stops.
So okay, so he's behind because of the pit stops. Oh, I see totally what's happened there. He's lagged slightly, and that's held him in place momentarily. And Hooper, in the bottle job prototype car, has rammed him up the rear and left him in the dirt.
Oh, God.
oh, the anecdotes.
Is
No.
not
Not
preferable.
cool.
Ouch.
Not a preferable way of doing it.
That's
Not a preferable way of saying it.
Oh, calm down.
No, globbits.
I think this is Christian Lewis coming through to serve his penalty then.
I think if anything, this broadcast is definitely not Christian.
No,
Oh.
not even slightly.
I say.
I think we're going to be the stream that is known for like loads of different references, and thanks. Hopefully, somebody might have counted how many references we made since about 1 PM this afternoon.
Well, I don't think I want to know the number.
you guys don't need to worry. It was a child-friendly or a family-friendly thing until the man we're talking about, Christian Lewis himself, became a caster. It soon changed after that. I can assure you. He is definitely not Christian. I can tell you that.
Well, his behaviour on track would lead that theory to be pretty much confirmed.
Yeah.
Brake checking other cars is not something we like to see.
Just watch one of his casters.
So, you know, that's pretty dodgy. You know, we've had some complaints about GTs today, but I think that's the first report of a brake check I've heard. And as someone who's driven LMP before, albeit on a different sim, it is quite scary when a car suddenly slows down unexpectedly directly in front of you and has the potential to cause quite dramatic accidents. So
Yep.
yeah.
Quite a lot of LMPs. They're the GTE pitting at the moment. We've got Malcolm Smith, Richard Taylor. I think someone else put in as well, and Alexis
Clapano.
Will we see a driver change from them potentially? I feel like he's been in the car a little while.
Yes, number 20 car. Nissan livery, which I actually quite like, to be fair.
Nick Bracci is back in the 24 Corvette, taking over from Taylor. That's the Bottled Up Racing GTE. Will Clapano and Smith change over? Oh, that's a big hit. That's great.
That's great. Yeah.
Facing the wrong way, and Bracci, just as you were talking about him, has rammed straight into the stricken BMW. That is not going to help their cause.
No.
In the slightest, that's not what you want to see.
It seems like it was pointing towards the track, to be honest. Showing him the way.
Do it?
No.
Oh God.
Please, no.
Not the dead memes. Not a reference. It's a dead meme.
Yeah.
It will not be revived in this chat. So help me, Lord.
Clapano and Smith remain in their cars. No driver changes for those two. And whilst James has lost a fair chunk of the lead he had when he came out of his pit stop, that's now stabilised at about 116.
Has there been a mistake from him, or has he just lost that time over the last couple of laps?
Let's have a look at the lap times.
Obviously, warming up fresh tyres potentially could have accounted for some of that.
The last couple of laps were 147s, and then it was in lap and out laps. So no, I don't think he's made a particular mistake. He's just maybe been caught in a bit of traffic. Maybe just the time was a little slow to update fully on the gap between the two. So no, I think James is back underway.
Well, that's good to hear and good to see, and I can see the gap starting to increase again steadily, or well, hold about right, but fluctuate up and down between the sectors of varying straight line and cornering. As we said earlier, the number 75 car seemingly set up for those straights and getting the maximum amount of speed they can off those, whereas the number 9 lead car, currently being driven by James Clay, set up seemingly more for the corners, as he has a little bit of difficulty navigating Angus Tong there to put him another lap down.
It's at this point that I'm afraid I'm going to love you and leave you. My commentary stint is done.
Well, it's been a joy to have you in the commentary
box. It's been a great pleasure to be in the commentary box once again for M1 and alongside you lovely people for this race. No.
Fantastic. Have a lovely evening.
I certainly shall.
Thank you, and thanks for joining us and casting today.